Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, topics, stipulations, first down, played it. Presenting topics from Kanye to Tom Brady. Facts, keys to the city, we're unlocking the statements.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. What a show we got for you today. We'll be joined by the great Joseph Aguiar to talk about the Houston Cheatstros. Yes, the Houston Cheatstros is the new name for them. We'll talk about that. What does that mean for baseball? The New York Yankees, are they all in? Or are they staying back? We'll see about that. We'll also be talking some more college football. Big old Kanish Chaz will be calling in. Should Alabama be the fourth best team, even though they lost? And who is number 4? Ted, I'll ask you. I'll ask Chaz as well. I know his take on it. I know he's against Alabama. But what we're going to do with the NFL as well. Russell Wilson is the Steph Curry of the NFL. I'll tell you why in a little. But first, ladies and gentlemen, we do have to talk about what occurred last night. Coming into last night's game, these were two teams that we're starting to warm up. It seemed like they were going in the right direction. Both teams in the AFC North, maybe fighting for a wild card position. You get the Pittsburgh Steelers coming in. Great defense. Offensive questionable. The Browns, all hype this year. Last night, I know what happened at the end of the game, but for the majority of that game, for the full 59 minutes and 53 seconds, that game was ugly as well. It was sloppy. It was dirty. Penalties. The Cleveland Browns, we know what the Cleveland Browns are. Ted, you're going to tell us in a few it's just a personification of this. The ultimate definition of this team. But last night, we know what happened. If you haven't seen it by now, it's been all over the news.
Living under a rock.
You're living under a rock. It's been all over the news. It was on Good Morning America, and the breaking news, it just came out. Myles Garrett is done for the rest of the year. Maurice Pouncey is suspended for 3 games, and OG, as I'm going to call him, most people calling him a coward, is suspended for 1 game. Both teams fined $250,000. And everybody could go back and forth with this.
That's it?
And that's it. Not a lot happened last night on Thursday night. That last 7 seconds, boy, oh boy. I know people are going to blame Mason Rudolph for this, but this is all on Myles Garrett. What in your rightful mind is going through your head at that time, saying that, yes, let me take off a helmet and use it as a weapon? What are you trying to send to the NFL? What kind of message is the NFL sending with that? Now, we know that the NFL specifically, has been adamant of player safety, correct? Concussions. We want to take care of our players. It's the most important thing. Health is the most important thing. So last night, people want to kind of brush it off, this Myles Garrett, and say, oh, well, he used the helmet. Mason Rudolph was starting it. Well, if a guy's trying to take me down, there's 7 seconds left. If we remember the play, Myles Garrett drags down Mason Rudolph, literally for no reason. So Mason Rudolph tells him to get the hell off. He starts punching him. You know the rest. But to use a helmet, a weapon, it is a weapon. I'm a football fan. I've played football my whole life. It's been in my family all my life. You and me both. You're a referee currently. I'm a commentator. So football has been in my life. I've played it. I've never seen anything like that. It's one of the most disgusting things in all of sports. Maybe the other thing I would say is the malice at the palace. But and we know how that was. That was disgusting. That was disturbing. Last night, boy, oh boy, that game was ugly. It started ugly. Both teams played ugly. And last night's game ended with the most ugliest way it could have possibly happened. So you see this, Ted. I don't even know what to say, man. We're diehard football fans. It's been in our life forever. To see something like that, this is such a black eye for the NFL because of the reason that all they care about is player safety. You see something like this, Ted.
It's just unfortunate.
Unfortunate.
So here's the thing. No, it really is unfortunate because I was thinking about this before when I went to use the restroom, and then that's where they say men do their best thinking on the toilet. So I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, we should be talking about the game. We got a Browns team that's won 2 straight games against the Bills and the Steelers. Important games. A lot of hype behind this team. But, I took a picture last night, and I said it to you when I got home from work. I said, what we saw last night was typical of the Browns this whole season. An undisciplined, egomaniac, selfish, self-centered team, and they are what they are. They're a 4-6 team. They're a team that leads the NFL in penalties with 87, penalty yards with 822, and they have 4 ejections, the most in the NFL. Everything was the most. And it tied the most by any team in the season since 2001. And, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, when I first saw it, you asked me what was my reaction. Now, I kind of almost like...
I'm not going to lie.
I didn't have a reaction.
Ted, you said he should have got only 3 games.
My initial 3 because...
Crazy.
Of course it's crazy.
If the NFL screwed this up, Roger Goodell should have been dismissed from his job if he messed this one up.
So then we've listened to this nonstop for 24 hours. And it's crazy because this is not what you want to see in any sport.
No.
You want to be talking about the game itself. You said it before. Good Morning America. They're led off. They could have led off with a school shooting that happened in California.
A school shooting. They could have started with the impeachment stuff going on. No, they started with the NFL.
And this is what it's about. We're talking about a situation that occurred in an NFL game. It's a product of the NFL that is the number one TV marketing sports thing that's... Listen, it's one of the biggest things in all of the world, especially in America.
Yeah.
The NFL. We're talking about an incident between 2 football players where a guy took a helmet off a player and hit another man in the head. And God forbid he hit him with the crown of the helmet. Who knows what would happen? I'm going to use all the words. Inexcusable, despicable, disgusting, sad, horrifying, hurtful. Because we should be talking about football and what it means for these 2 teams and the game in itself.
Who said it best? It was either Freddie Kitchens or Baker Mayfield. This almost feels like a loss. Yes, they won last night, but the way that game is, that's just a sour taste. For the rest of the year going forward, this could be still discussed moving on. This is not a day or two's thing. This is going to be a week or 2. They're going to be talking about this. This is not a good look for the NFL.
It's a black spot.
Yes, it's a black eye to the sport right now. It's a black eye to the sport right now.
And it might be bigger than a black eye. It's one of the worst things we've seen in the football in a long time. See, you've had baseball fights, crazy things. We've seen things in minor leagues where a guy has come out with a bat or something.
That's the same kind. If you want to relate it to hockey or you wanted to relate it to baseball, it's like bringing out a hockey stick or a baseball bat. I know it's dangerous. Those are much more but it is still a weapon.
Maybe the craziest thing I've seen was the Todd Bertuzzi hit when he played for Vancouver and he came
knocked
from behind
out. Yep.
And he punched the guy
right. He got 25 games for that.
He got the biggest criminal thing.
The biggest thing about this is it all comes down to the player's safety. I mean, we know about the concussion thing. People have been adamant about it. They've been going after it.
This is a brotherhood.
They're trying to make this work and make the game safer. Last night was no room for making the game safer. I mean, anybody that wants to defend Myles Garrett, shame on you, because that's not allowed in the NFL. That's not football. That's not football. I've heard Ryan Clark say it, and I love Ryan Clark. He's one of the most honest people in this field. He said something today, and I told you, and I said I 100% disagree with him. That's not football. Taking your helmet off and smashing against a guy's head. God forbid, he just had a concussion too. A couple weeks ago, he had a concussion. And you're telling me that's football? Ryan Clark, you're better than that.
Yeah, because two wrongs don't make a right.
That is not football. Mason Rudolph, yeah, he was going after Myles Garrett, but anytime you try to use a weapon in a football game and you trying to tell me that's football? No. You might have played in the professional league. You might have played in college. I didn't get those chances, but I did play football. And anytime that ever happened and you're telling me that's football, give me a break. And that's not football.
No, that's
not football. What happened last night?
It's unfortunate because as two guys who have played football, maybe we're not played at that highest level. I played D3 football. You played high school. We're involved in the game now. When people look at football players, it's always people look down on football players. It's not like other sports.
It's a violent sport.
Listen, I'll say it. The culture of football, the type of men that play it, not what you got to
the physical. Listen, the physical contact as well.
Race
all that
plays into a part of this, okay? Because no one wants to say it, but it's a true fact. Because anytime something happens on a football field, someone's always got that saying of, "Oh, look who it is."
Yeah, they always point to the finger.
Second of all, I remember being in college the first year and our coach telling us, always be on on the lookout because a lot of people have a thing for football players, looking to get them in trouble, looking for that thing because you're the big jock, you're the muscle kid, you're the bully, you pick on people, you walk around like you're better than everyone else. We've seen it. It happens before. This is just another thing that it makes the game of football, and people look at football players like, yep, there they are. There's the big idiots.
You could tell it's a football
So
player.
now let's break, and I want to just end it on this, and I want to break down the whole scenario, and then we can actually talk about the game for a second. So we have the sack and then the takedown. So okay,
there was no reason for that in the first place.
So now Mason Rudolph,
he throws a quick screen. There was no reason for him to drag him down like that.
Okay, so Mason Rudolph, now I think he should be punished. Suspended for a game.
Maybe a game.
You gotta get the antagonizer because I've seen other pictures now where you see Mason Rudolph kind of go to the lower.
But Ted, how would you feel
the lower genitals?
No, but I'm going to ask you.
If a guy hits me in the
yes, I know, but how would you feel if you're the quarterback and I'm dragging you down for no reason?
Okay, it's happened before.
I know, but you got to get. You're trying to get him off of you.
But no, he wasn't trying to get him off. He was grabbing Myles Garrett by the face mask. He was grabbing him by the face.
So it gives you the right to use.
You tackle me, okay, and you roll me down, okay. I don't like the extra. I don't grab your face mask.
So
I let one of my guys push him off or something.
It still doesn't.
Okay, he kicked him. He kicked him low.
Yeah.
Okay, he grabbed him by the face mask. Now think about this. We've seen this. It happens before in other fights. We've seen like when Andre Johnson had the fight against Finnegan.
Cortland Finnegan. Yes.
One guy grabs one guy's face mask. The other guy grabs the other face mask. So when Mason Rudolph grabs Myles Garrett's face mask, what do you think Myles Garrett's going to do? He's going to grab it back. But now it's like, okay, I'm the tough guy. He rips his face mask off.
And then he uses that as a weapon.
Now what he should have did is walked away. Took the helmet, he should have thrown it and walked away. Yep. But instead, he did the most criminal thing you could do as a football player.
It's technically
and use it as a weapon.
I hope this doesn't go to legal things because technically this could be considered a criminal offense.
And then so now after that, so Mason Rudolph kind of was like, what the hell? What had just happened? And then you have the guy.
The coward, as what he's been called.
Number 65. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because I'm going to mess it up. Okay? But he comes in from behind and pushes Mason Rudolph in a cheap shot. And then he goes in afterwards and goes, I was just protecting my teammate. So I don't know about you, but if that guy's never been in a fight before, it looks it because if you're trying to protect your player, now I said this to you last night, if you're getting beat up, I don't go push the stranger that's watching the fight from the side.
Yeah, the random guy.
Or the guy's girlfriend. I go in the fight and go attack the guy that's jumping you, and I go after his head. Mm-hmm. That you go jump in after Marquise Pouncey. He wanted nothing of Pouncey. That's the thing. He comes in and takes a cheap shot at the quarterback. That's not protecting your player. Protecting your player is going after the guy that's on the ground.
It's just
that's a cheap shot. I'm glad he got suspended. I wish he got suspended more. I think he should have got 3 games.
Should have got at least 2 or 3.
Pouncey should have got 5. Okay, and then they could have appealed it, maybe brought it down to 2, and then the other guy. I think Mason Rudolph should have got something, should get a heavy fine because he's an antagonist, and you got to get the first guy too because I've seen this as official. We always catch the second guy in the action. We always catch the second act, right? Yeah. But there had to be something to antagonize to get it to that point. It's unfortunate. I also think what I texted you earlier. Remember, I said this game is garbage. I said,
and I know I told you for the first 59 minutes and 53 seconds, that game was the definition of garbage. It was not good. Mason Rudolph was horrible. Baker Mayfield did not look good. And both teams looked like they did not want to win that football game. And then that was just the icing on the cake. It's just such a black eye for the biggest sport in our country right now, and to see this go on, and it's going to go on for quite some time now.
It's a disgrace.
It's a disgrace. It's despicable. It's putrid to see what happened.
Here's the thing. Imagine this happening in a high school or college game. It would be even bigger.
As a fan of football.
Because, see, we almost want to give the excuse to the NFL players, but if this was in a high school thing, imagine, because you might have parents attack it.
Yeah,
it could have been. I want to talk about the game if you don't mind, unless you have something.
No, because it pretty much was the definition of a garbage game. There's nothing much to talk about other than this incident.
I want to stop hearing any talk about Mason Rudolph as a future quarterback.
No, he's not. No,
he's not good.
He's not a good quarterback.
He's not good. Okay, he is a backup quarterback for the rest of his life.
Colin Kaepernick.
He's no good.
Making a prediction. Colin Kaepernick's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler by next week.
By PFF, have the best offensive line in football by Pro Football Focus. They don't have. Last night they got beat up by the Browns defensive line, and I think there was a lot of frustration.
And that's what's going to happen as well. That's going to hurt for a team, and we'll talk about it in a few with our contender for playoff teams right now. And the Browns and Steelers, 2 teams that are in that list. The Browns just lost their best player.
Yep.
They just lost their most important player for the rest of the year.
And you also got to take into account last night. In a garbage game, you had Juju Smith knocked out in a helmet-to-helmet collision.
Deontay Thompson,
that was a head-hunting shot.
That's two.
When Randall comes in and doesn't even bring his arms, lowers the crown of his helmet and takes it, and he hits him in the jaw.
Yeah.
That's either a broken jaw and that's a knockout shot.
It was an ugly game. There was penalties.
You know what I said to
there
you?
were turnovers.
Disgusting.
Yes, it was not a good game for a game that had so much meaning going forward for both teams.
Reminded me of the Bengals game with the Vontaze
That's what somebody said. Somebody said that. I mean, these AFC North games are always great because they're battles. These teams do not like each other. But last night, there was so much meaning going forward with this game. The Steelers, can they gain to a 6-4? I mean, win a 5-game winning streak? They look like they were dead, and now they start warming up. The Browns, can they start going? They beat the Bills last week. Now they beat the Steelers this week. Got a favorable schedule. Next week, they play the Dolphins. Then they 2 weeks. Boy, oh boy, you want to talk about the most intriguing game for probably this entire season. It's in 2 weeks. December 1st. It's a 4:25 game. Steelers and Browns, part 2. Don't know what's going to happen. Then they play the Bengals, the Cardinals, the Ravens, and then the Bengals again. You look at the schedule with the Browns, they can get to the playoffs maybe, but they just lost their best player. And it's such a black eye for the sport to see something like this. The game was awful. The game was garbage, and it just ended. And at the most unrealistic way you can ever see. I mean, you only see this, and remember the game NFL Blitz. Only time you've ever seen this. This is something that Myles Garrett, he can do whatever he wants for the rest of his career. He could be an all-time great. This will always be his main moment. And it's not a good one.
Other than that, my biggest takeaway last night was how bad Baker Mayfield is. He is not good. He is not a proficient quarterback. He has lost everything that we liked when he came out of college. His accuracy, his ability. Listen, he missed OBJ multiple times. He missed Jarvis Landry. I think Freddie Kitchens. I'll relate this to the Giants thing. Don't get mad.
No, I'm looking at you like, where are you going with this one?
You know how we talked about coordinators and head coaches?
Yeah,
if you're the head coach, you have to be the moderator. You have to
take care of everything. Yes.
You're the CEO. You don't make the decisions.
Yep.
Okay? You watched Freddie Kitchens last night. When he was successful last year, he was the offensive coordinator. That was where his focus was.
Yeah.
Now as the head coach, you lose that focus. There is no way a team like the Browns, with Baker Mayfield, with Jarvis Landry, with Beckham, with Kareem Hunt, with Nick Chubb, that could be so
inept at times
and inefficient on offense.
At times.
It just shows that these both teams, and we'll get into it.
And we'll talk about it in field.
Have more growth going forward than we think they are. You know what I mean? They are still at the adolescent age where they have.
So let's get into it. I'm going to get right into it. Since we're talking about the Steelers and the Browns, we're going to get into our pretender and contender list for the so-called playoff teams. And there's some 5-4 teams. I'm going to add a couple more teams because I do feel like there's teams that are maybe going to get to the playoffs that I do not take seriously as well, even making to the playoffs. And I'm going to start with the Browns. Ted, are they a pretender? You're just going to give me pretender or contender. Are they a pretender or are they a contender?
And this is for the playoffs, right? And just so everyone understands, I apologize.
Yes.
I still think they're pretenders. What they showed me last night, they should have won that game by 28 points.
How about are either teams contenders?
No, I think the pretenders. I think last night the Browns proved to us last night that the Steelers are pretenders. We kind of got fooled the last couple of weeks because of how good the Steelers defense was. But at the end of the day, your offense has to be better, much better than it played. Mason Rudolph is not going to lead them to the playoffs. Listen, they're missing their starting running back. They're missing their starting receiver. Yeah. They have too many holes on offense. Listen, when you lose your starting quarterback, your starting running back, and your starting receiver, you're not going to be successful. It's incredible where Mike Tomlin has his team right now, but they are not going to make the playoffs.
Let's get to the other teams. We do have a lot more.
Well, I said we do have a lot more. I said I would make it short and sweet.
We have a lot more to go with more teams.
I would put it this way. I'll put it this way. Between the two teams, I'd give the Browns a better chance of making the playoffs than the Steelers. Because of their record.
That's fine.
And the schedule going forward.
Thank you. Let's get into another AFC team that we didn't have on the list, and it's not in the pictures displayed right now, but it's a team that's 6-3 currently, and it's the Buffalo Bills. They just lost to the Cleveland Browns. Are they pretender, contender? I'm going to add them to the pretender list as well.
Oh, are you?
I don't take them serious. I do not think they're a good enough offense. I think Josh Allen, too inconsistent. Their defense is great.
It's the Steelers.
It's just their offenses, all three of these offenses are at times inept. And they have great defenses at times too. But they don't, I'm not trusting them. I'm going to move on to another
Same thing. I agree with you. The Bills, because of the quarterback. Josh Allen hasn't made the growth yet that we would like to have seen. Maybe next year the Bills will be that team.
All right, let me get into another. We're going to go through AFC, then go to the NFC.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's rock.
The next one is the Colts. They're on a 2-game losing streak right now. Jacoby Brissett's not playing, but right now, what do we make of this team? Are they a pretender, contender? I'm going to say a pretender right now. I think with the Jacoby Brissett, how long it's going to be, I think he is a difference maker for this team. I just don't trust them right now. I think with Brissett out and having Brian Hoyer under center, they're going to struggle. They struggled last week. I mean, when you lose to the Dolphins at home, there's no reason for that happening. I don't trust the Colts as well. I put them in my pretender list.
I will only put them in the contender if I know Jacoby Brissett is healthy going forward. I think he can get them to the playoffs, but if he's not healthy going forward, they're a pretender. They're a team where...
So in other words...
I'm so wishy-washy on them because they have the offensive line, they have the running game, they have T.Y. Hilton. I don't know if they have enough playmakers, and someone's going to have to make the... Here's my thing, and the reason why I said this, because you're going to say, Ted, so they're contender and pretenders. Someone in the AFC's got to make the wild card teams, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to make it? Well, I mean, if we don't think the Browns, we don't make the Steelers.
Hold on, I got one more team.
The Colts.
I got one more team.
Okay.
I don't know about the Chiefs. I'm not going to say the Chiefs, but the Chiefs do not look like
the Chiefs are making the playoffs. They're not missing.
They have
a
lot of question marks.
I know they do.
The last team is in that division. They're 5-4. They probably have been the surprise of the year. Surprise team, I would say, and that's the Oakland Raiders right now. 5-4. They play the Bengals this week. All signs point to them winning. Can they be pretender, contender? Oakland, John Gruden. Does he get going into Vegas? Do they go to the playoffs?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say they are a contender. I think the schedule favors them.
Yep.
They have a very solid offensive line like we've seen. They have a great young rookie running back in Josh Jacobs. I think Garrett Carr is good enough at quarterback. You look at the quarterback and teams that we just said, the Colts, the Browns, and the Steelers. Derek Carr is much better quarterback of any of those teams. And I think if Derek Carr was on those teams, I would put them as contenders.
I'm going to agree with you.
And I think their defense, it's not great, but it's sufficient enough. And I like what John Gruden and who's the GM I'm thinking of? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank.
Mark Davis?
No, he's the owner.
Mike Mayock.
Mike Mayock. I was going to say McShay. Mike Mayock, thank you.
I would agree.
I think they're contenders.
I'm going to actually agree with you, too. I really do like the Oakland Raiders, what they're doing. I love what Gruden's doing.
It's impressive.
And it's for a team that nobody thought had high expectations, they're coming in and they're exceeding them well above any of those expectations. I'm going to take the Oakland Raiders to get into the playoff as a wild card team. Surprise, surprise, John Gruden is in the playoffs. Let's get over to the NFC quickly. And this could be more intriguing because there's some big name teams on this list. And 3 of the teams, we all had maybe Super Bowl aspirations for them. I'm going to start off 2 of them in our division. Eagles. What's going on with them? Carson Wentz. He's been playing all right. He's been up and down, though. Their defense, they've been decimated with injuries. Coming into this year, many people had them maybe winning a Super Bowl. But right now, they're 5-4, fighting with those Cowboys for the NFC East title. What do we make of the Eagles? I say they're a pretender. I do not think the Eagles are going to make the playoffs because of the injuries. I think there's just going to be too much to overcome. And I just don't I don't know what's going on with this team. Their team is so inconsistent. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They play the Patriots. It could be all changed this week if they beat the Patriots. But right now, I'd say they're a pretender.
I agree totally. Listen, they don't have any deep threat. They don't have any speed.
Yeah, they need a receiver.
They don't have any speed. And that's something we've always talked about, where being able to stretch the field and open up the seams for the 2 tight ends that they have in Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
They have Alshon Jeffrey, but he's like a bigger tight end. I mean, he's a tight end with just a little bit extra speed. And maybe Ertz is faster than him. They don't have an explosive running back. There's a report out, Juwan Howard's going to be out this week. So they use Miles Sanders. They're too inconsistent. Their defense has been inept at times this year. one team in the NFC East is going to make the playoffs.
And is that the Cowboys? Is the Cowboys pretender or contender?
Listen, I think the way the NFC picture is set up is going to be the playoffs.
Pretender or contender? Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys are going to make the playoffs. They are a contender.
They are a contender.
Yes, they are a much better team than overall than the Eagles. They own the Eagles. Dak Prescott's like 5-1 against Carson Wentz in his career. They have the better offensive line. They have the better running back. They have the better receiver in Amari Cooper and Myles
Garrett, huh?
Yeah, Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett.
Shut up, Ted. I know. Slow down.
I'm kidding.
Right? They have the defensive players. They have the defensive line. They have the linebackers. They have the secondary. Listen, I know people don't trust Jason Garrett, but I think they're good enough to get to the playoffs, and that's what we're talking about. Contenders to get to the playoffs, and they're one of the most dangerous teams going forward because they can do so many. They've got the number one total offense in football. A lot of people probably don't know that.
Only reason why I'm going to put the Cowboys as more lean towards...
You can't put them pretenders because someone's got to make the playoffs.
The only reason why they're going to make the playoffs is because I just think...
Because the Eagles are not.
Yeah, the Eagles are not. And
one team in the NFC is making the playoffs, and that's it.
One team's coming out of this division. As we all know, we all thought these were two teams that maybe are going to go both to the playoffs. It doesn't look that way now.
Not the way the rest
Cowboys
of the NFC set
have been so up and down this year. They start off hot. We know they've beaten nobody. Then they lose a couple games, and they win a couple more. They just lost last week. It all comes down to the shoulders of Dak Prescott. Can he make the play? Sometimes he does. Sometimes he doesn't. And Jason Garrett, my God, 9 years. He's the third longest tenure coach in the league, I believe.
No, fourth. Behind Payton, Tomlin, and Belichick.
And the rest of the three and Carroll as well. And all four of them have been to the playoffs. And all four of them have won a Super Bowl. Not named Jason Garrett.
Too.
Yeah, Harbaugh as well. Jason Garrett hasn't done anything. 2 wins in 9 seasons. I'm going to go with them just because you have to pick one of them. The next is the Rams. Quickly, I do not see them. Right now, their offense is what's going on with this. A year ago at this time, we were like, oh my God, this is amazing. Sean McVay, he's this new genius. Well, 1 year later, and we're like, what the hell's going on with Sean McVay in this offense?
It's very easy to explain with that. Their offensive line is their weakest link.
Yep.
They just lost 2 more starters from last week's game.
Yep.
So they'll be able their center and their guard. Mm-hmm. They have no one except for Andre Whitworth. Todd Gurley. His career might be over.
It sucks to see Todd Gurley. So talented.
Brandon Cooks is out with concussion. They have Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Their defense has not been the same. Yeah. I know they have Donald and Jalen Ramsey, but their defense hasn't been as impressive.
All right.
So they're not making the playoffs, and especially in that division when you have the Seahawks and the 49ers in front of them.
We'll get into the Seahawks in a sec. I'm going with a pretender as well.
Yes.
I don't know. This is
rebuild for next year.
Fascinating. Yeah, rebuild. 2 years ago, they're all in. Now they're going rebuild. That's how fast.
Well, not rebuild, but you just add components.
No, but that's how crazy things can change like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, just say. And the last team, Carolina Panthers. Are they a contender or are they a pretender? Right now, I mean, they're a pretender as well, but Kyle Allen showed a lot. Christian McCaffrey is an MVP candidate. He's been amazing. Their defense has played well as well. But
as well.
But it's kind of like the Eagles thing. The weapons. I feel like they lack that big play receiver.
They got nice pieces.
They do have some nice pieces, but I think they can. If you can ever add a nice deep threat to that team, it could really change things. Like the Eagles as well. Kind of the same difference. Same thing with the Eagles.
Greg Olson's older. He's not the same guy as he once was. I would love to see a big time receiver with them,
like an AJ Green. If he,
yes. Now that's something that we never talk about that, and we will. But that's something that I would love to see down there, especially for a young quarterback in Kyle Allen. I don't think Kyle Allen's good enough at this point in time in his career where he's going to lead them. They're going to be good. They'll probably get to 8-8, maybe 9-7. But I think in this year, the way the NFC is stacked up, it's going to be not good enough. You're going to have to win 10 wins the way I believe to get to the wild card. Huh? Minnesota's only needs they're at 7 wins. Seattle's got 7 wins. So
Seattle's got 8.
No, 7.
Oh, 7? 7 and 2. Okay.
So
just making sure.
Listen, it's going to be really hard for any of these teams other than what we've named.
I mean, the AFC's probably more likely, but the NFC, you name those 4 teams with the exception of the NFC.
Here's the thing.
Those 3 teams, the Cowboys, one of those 3 teams, I mean, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Rams, 3 of those teams can miss the playoffs.
The AFC, we know. We've been talking all year. The AFC overall is garbage, okay? Really, I put 1 team in the whole... 2 other teams in the AFC that could compete in the NFC, and that's Baltimore and New England. But there's a lot more flaws in New England that people are really talking about.
So let me get into that NFC picture.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned the Seattle Seahawks. And I was thinking about it. A couple months ago, we listened to Colin Cowherd a lot. Avid listeners to it. So he kind of compared Patrick Mahomes to Steph Curry. And the more I was thinking about it, after Monday night's classic, and the way Russell Wilson does things is amazing. He's unreal. And I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Russell Wilson is the Steph Curry of the NFL. Now, you could call me crazy, but that's fine. I don't care. I want to be called crazy. Steph Curry is the 7th pick, went to Davidson. So when he came out, people didn't think his game would ever translate. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, no.
Russell Wilson, when he got drafted.
Well, because he was short, 5'11".
Let me go through it. People think he was never going to be successful because of his height. Oh, and quarterbacks under 6 feet never succeed without the name Drew Brees. Okay. At the time, you had a position, the center position was huge. Steph Curry comes in. He's changed the position. At one point, we were saying the center position was dead. Now we have centers shooting the 3 ball. 10 years ago, that was never going to happen.
Yeah, you got down in the block, in the post, you posted up, you asked for the
Russell
ball.
Wilson, 10 years ago, we would have never thought quarterbacks under 6 feet or 6 feet were going to be getting drafted, let alone in the first round. Let alone the first pick.
Well, there
back to back.
Well, here's the thing. There was Michael Vick, but I know where you're going with this. It's on a consistent basis that guys like Baker Mayfield could go number 1, or Kyler Murray can go number 1, or Lamar Jackson could be a first-round draft pick.
My point is, I'm not putting Lamar Jackson because he's over 6 feet. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something you would have never seen. He kind of is changing the narrative of, hey, we can take a guy that's 6 feet under, or we could take a dual threat quarterback now. The pocket passer, they're starting to maybe get away from that. Just like the NBA, they started getting away from centers. Or they've changed, and you've seen big men become jump shooters, shooting 3 balls. And now we look in the NBA, a whole new view of how we draft shooters now. Just shooters. You look at guys like Jamal Murray, Tyler Herro, Devin Booker. I know they're all from Kentucky, but still.
How about the kid from Atlanta? That's what.
Trae Young as well, another guy. Guys like that, 10 years ago, you might have taken them late in the first round, maybe, because point guards at the time were facilitators. They weren't shooting the ball like crazy, scoring like they do. Look what Steph Curry has done for shooters. Look what he's done for the NBA. Look what Russell Wilson has done for quarterbacks. Look at what he's done to change the way we look at the narrative of you must draft a pocket passer. Back in the day, now you're getting rid of that whole narrative. Let's get a guy, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. Amazing. Never would have thought this would ever happen. And both guys just so happen they get the ball in the hand. They can do whatever. It's amazing what they do. Steph Curry, you know what he does. If he gets over half court, he can take a shot from anywhere on the court. When Russell Wilson's on the field, he can be running 30 yards back. He might still get a first down because of the way he's changed the game. Both quarterbacks or both players are generational talents. They're both in the West Coast as well. And they've changed the outlook of each sport with the name of shooting with basketball, what I mean, and then the NFL drafting dual threat quarterbacks and quarterbacks that are under 6 feet. Guys like now another name that you could possibly be hearing, Jalen Hurts. 2 years ago, you would have never talked about Jalen Hurts as maybe a first-round pick. Now with the way that Kyler Murray has gotten drafted number 1, Baker Mayfield has gotten drafted number 1, it's because of a guy named Russell Wilson who has changed that forever.
Oh, yeah.
And now that you see guys in the NBA shooting the ball more, big men playing.
Well, it's not even just shooting.
And we always get mad. How about this?
It's not even just shooting. Steph Curry, listen, got guys like Trae Young drafted. Okay, before Steph Curry, we always had point guards that could shoot.
Not like this.
Penny Hardaway could shoot, and he was a point guard who was 6'8". The difference is Steph Curry was a small point guard. Remember coming out of Davidson? He was like this. Okay?
He was a guy that we never thought his game.
But they said this game would never translate into the NBA because it's a big man game.
Yep.
You know, the smallest guy that we could ever remember being that successful was Allen Iverson, okay? A small guy, a guy that's under 6 foot or close to 6 feet.
Spud Webb, I mean, guys like that.
Yeah,
but I know what you're saying. Yes.
Steph Curry. Trae Young in his second year is averaging 28 points a game. You know, still, we had question marks going on Trae Young. Is he even big enough to compete? Because Curry's bigger than him. Was he going to be able to compete and be successful at this level?
And then look at a guy.
And he has. And he's become a star for the Atlanta Hawks. Now you look at Russell Wilson. What he has done done for the Seattle Seahawks and for the rest of the NFL and the rest of the guys like you said, Kyler Murray and Baker.
Look at what Kyler Murray's doing right now. He's on the verge of maybe throwing for almost close to 4,000 yards this year.
He has helped those guys go from guys that maybe would have got drafted late in rounds to first round picks to now number one pick.
Ted, a year ago at this time, we weren't even considering
because there's always been a thing about dual threat. Cam Newton, dual threat. Lamar Jackson, Michael Vick. We've had dual threats. Colin Kaepernick.
To see what he's done.
But guys that are smaller.
Other than Drew Brees, we haven't had guys under 6 feet dominate. And now you're looking at Russell Wilson change the way we view quarterbacks. Steph Curry has changed the way we view shooting for the rest of time. Until we're gone from this world, the NBA will now forever be a shooter's league. The NFL, now with the next draft, you don't know who could be the number one pick because of guys like Russell Wilson. He's changed the narrative. Steph Curry has changed the narrative. That's why Steph Curry, or Russell Wilson, I should say, is the Steph Curry of the NFL. They've changed it forever.
And then
we know, and look at also.
I don't know if it's changed the game for the NFL, but it's changed the outlook.
You don't think it's changed the outlook?
No, because
Ted, we just talked about it last week on the show. How we should maybe start considering drafting and getting away from the pocket passer quarterback and more of the dual threat. And they don't mind this.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't think Russell Wilson's about dual threat because he's a passer.
But okay,
I think it's specifically. I think with him, when you got to use this category, you got to use it as a size thing.
There you go. 10 years ago, you would have never, because you would have probably, your job would have been on the line if you took a chance on a guy like Russell Wilson. Drafting a guy under 6 feet. Because you just don't do it.
And the next person that people are kind of relating Russell Wilson to is the is the Alabama quarterback, Tua. He's not that big of a quarterback. He's just over 6 feet. And he's got the same look of Russell Wilson. He's got the same leadership. Yep. And when he's healthy, and if you remember when he first came and played in the college world, he can run. He can make plays with his legs. Now,
but that's my point.
He was dynamic enough. He's like the lefty Russell Wilson. And you're going to look at Tua might be the number one quarterback. And it goes to your motto and what you're saying. A smaller quarterback that has athleticism. There's always a thing, dual threat.
All I'm trying to say is 10 years ago, both of these guys, they were just a thought. The idea that a 6 foot or under quarterback could be number one picks nowadays, or a shooter, or we thought the center position. Who would have thought back then 10 years ago that the center position would start, big men would the three ball, would enhance three balls to their game, shooting that. We would have never expected it. We would have never expected Russell Wilson, a guy like Russell Wilson, to come in and dominate. These two guys have done that, and they've changed the league forever. And look at, if you want to think I'm crazy, just look at the past two NFL drafts. The number one picks have been two quarterbacks with a height of 6 feet or under. I'm sorry. It's just, these are two guys that will forever have changed.
Tua might be the number one pick, and he might be the same thing.
And these are two guys that have forever changed their sport. Plain and simple. Did you want to close? Let's close out with the New York Giants. We haven't talked about the New York Giants because we are Giant fans, but quickly, should the New York Giants have shut down Saquon Barkley? It's one of the big questions right now. This is a team going, and we don't know. Once again, another year has passed by, and it's 3 straight years that the New York Giants, we don't know what the direction is right now. The New York Giants, they're an abomination. They're atrocious. They're 2-8. At one point, they were 2-2, and now they are 2-8. Boy, oh boy, what do they do with their franchise player? Me, I'm playing. I'm forever playing. I mean, somebody's not telling me, yeah, we're going to shut you down. No, I'm playing. That's the competitor in me, and that's what I want to do. I want to play the game that I love, and you're not taking me out. I don't care. Let him play. And I'm glad that he I'm playing. I'm not. Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. You're a competitor.
How somebody could say, yeah, shut him down for the rest of the year. No. Then you never played the game, because most of these people that comment and make these comments never played the game. Saquon Barkley should not be sit down.
You understand where the person's coming from, because you're thinking about the future. Because everyone's worried about
but the player's not going to do it.
Of course not. You're a competitor. No one's shutting me down. You listen, guys play through injury all the time. I understand. You're 2-8. You're not going nowhere. You're not going to make the playoffs. I can understand sitting him week 17. When it's totally irrelevant.
Yep.
But not now. Not now. He's got the bye week. Let him play the next couple weeks. Listen, we got to build some unity with this offense, okay? I read the stat last night. I didn't even believe this. I couldn't believe it. Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley, and now Daniel Jones all have not been on the field together at any point in this season. I would just like to see what the team would look like with those players on the field, even for a game. All right? That's all I want to see. Saquon Barkley's going to play the rest of the season. If you want to sit him week 17, that's fine. Everyone's worried, what if he gets hurt? Listen, okay, whatever. We can't play. You can't go through life wondering if you're going to get hurt, okay?
Yeah, you got
I take my car out and I drive up to Farmington every Friday.
Really? Is that really what
you can fall down the stairs, you get in a car accident, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Wow. Ted's getting real deep. Ted, you're getting real deep.
But that's what people worry.
No, I know.
What are you going to do? Live in a box? Live in a bubble?
A bubble?
I was thinking the bubble.
What, are you going to say pasta?
No, I was trying to think of the Watto commercial. Remember? With the guy
I don't remember the damn Watto commercial.
Where the guy would wear like the metal armor and he'd like be afraid because he had the Powerball.
I'm glad that Saquon Barkley is playing. He should be playing.
But he is frustrated. You could tell.
Oh, yeah.
He is very frustrated.
Who wouldn't be? You're 2-8. Your first 2 seasons, it's been not what you expected. This team has, there's a lot more to talk about the Giants. We'll talk more about it. They're on their bye week.
They can't lose this week.
We can only hope. But that's it. That was only
hope. What kind of crap is that?
We can only hope they don't lose.
They can't lose this week. They're on a bye.
The bye week always wins.
We'll get healthy at least.
Get healthy, yeah. That's whatever. That was only the first segment.
That's good.
Good stuff.
It's good.
We got a jam-packed show for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you didn't get to check it out, you can check us out on Spotify.
The only way, though, I will say this. I know I cut you off. Is if he's not really healthy. Like, I don't want him out there.
If he says he's healthy, then he's gonna. I
don't think he was healthy against the Jets.
Well, guess what? He played. He says he's fine, and if he wants to play, let him play.
Let him play.
That was the first part.
Let them play.
That was the first part of the show.
All right,
we got some good stuff today.
We got some great college football.
We got some great college football stuff, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're joined by the big old Kanish to talk some college football. Who is number 4? That's the main question. We know who top 3 is, but who is number 4? Is Alabama really done? We'll be joined by Chaz. We'll talk about that to discuss. We are Keys to the City. We'll be right back, folks.
You're listening to Keys to the City, brought to you by All Noise Radio. Here's your host, Trevor and Ted.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We'll be joined by big old Kanish, Charles Reether, in a couple minutes to talk college football. What does he think of his Week 2 college football playoff rankings? Here's the big question, and this is the ultimate question for me, is we know the top 3 right now, right? We know that LSU is number 1, well-deserving. We know Ohio State is number 2, well-deserving. Clemson is well-deserving, number 3. They're undefeated. All 3 teams have been dominant for who they've played. I don't care who they played, but they have dominated. That's what they've done. They're undefeated, all 3. The biggest question right now is who's number 4. And that's going to be the biggest question moving forward for this committee in college football. Is it Alabama? Is it Georgia? Is it Oregon? Is it Minnesota? Utah? Penn State? And maybe a Big 12, and we'll see how this weekend goes. We'll talk about that game. Big implications for the Big 12. But right now, those teams, you really look at it on paper, who is the best team out of those 5 or 6 teams right there? Is it Alabama? Is it Georgia? I mean, right now, Georgia, I really am not a big fan of Georgia. I do not think Georgia is number 4. To me, out of the top 10, they have, without question, the worst loss out of any of those teams. Yes, Alabama is number 5 currently, right now. And they just lost to LSU. And they don't play anybody. Okay. But do you really think Alabama is not the 4th best team in college football? I ask you that. Anybody that watches college football, I know they don't play anybody, and they're going to play Auburn. That's the only big game they have left. And they might not win their conference. Okay, that's fine. But is Alabama really not the 4th best team, Ted?
If you put them on a neutral, so I said this.
Your mic.
Yeah, my mic.
He's not even on. He's not even on. He doesn't want to talk.
Well,
good. That's
good because I couldn't interrupt you.
No, I don't want to hear you either. That's good sometimes.
I said this to you. I'm like, I understand. There's 2 different tests. There's the eye test, which is common knowledge. Just watch the game and you can tell certain teams are at different levels.
Yep.
That's obvious. And then there's the one where we've gotten into arguments with Chaz, which is the most deserving. And I understand the hatred for Alabama because I'm a Yankee fan. And people hate the Yankees. It's cool to hate. People are sick of seeing Alabama because they've been in the college football playoff every year. And, you'll hear the excuse, well, they haven't played no one. They don't beat no one. Okay. But if I wind up Minnesota today against Alabama,
put them all on the neutral site.
What do you think this? First of all, if we're talking gambling,
who cares about the spread?
Don't tell me that.
No,
because that's indicative of the game. The spread is indicative of the game. It is because it's very indicative of the game. Because if Alabama was playing Minnesota, they would be at minimal 2-touchdown favorite.
I know. They win the game by what the gamblers say. Okay, so the game's over already.
Here's the thing. It's indicative because if they thought Minnesota was good enough, the spread would be like 3. That's what I'm saying. Chaz is calling. Of course he is. Here he is.
Big old Kanish. We're talking
cooking, guys.
Nothing much. We're talking about your favorite topic right now currently. Before we get into the games, big games right now, 5 games on the slate for you this week. I think there's 4, but it is a big slate. We're talking right now about Alabama, your favorite team. I know. And we're talking right now who should be number 4. And we just had the rankings. To me, it should be easy. I think Alabama's the 4th best team. Do you really think that Georgia or Oregon, Utah, Minnesota, Penn State, Oklahoma, Baylor, those teams, just a handful of the teams, do you really think on a neutral site those teams are beating Alabama, or are they even better than Alabama?
How can you guys, let's just look at the resume. And I'm so tired of it.
I got to interrupt them.
I'm so tired of the national media saying it's about the best teams that get into the college football playoff. Then you know what? Don't play the regular season and just pick them in the preseason.
But you do not think that Alabama is the 4th best team right now? Do you really think Georgia is the 4th best team? Or you might have somebody different. I don't know if you have Oregon or I don't know who's your 4th best team. But do you really think Georgia is the 4th best team?
Compare resumes. Georgia beat Notre Dame, a top 15 team, and beat Florida, a top 15 team. Alabama has not beaten a ranked opponent and has not beaten a top 50 or a top 100 opponent. Stop the nonsense. They beat Arkansas, a soft slate in the preseason. What makes you think if you took Alabama off their jersey, how can you say that they're the 4th best team in the country based on their resume? So do we just pick the teams because of ratings and based on preseason ratings, or are we going to take the team that deserves to be there the most? I'm sorry.
And I talked to you about this the other day, and I compared it to the Patriots. Like right now, and you said don't compare with the NFL, but it is very simple because the Patriots haven't played anybody up until this point this year. I know they're 8-1. They just played their best opponent and got smacked on Sunday Night Football. But we know what the Patriots are. We know what they're going to do. It doesn't matter who they have to play. Do we really need them to play the big name schools to prove that they're a good program? We know what Alabama is. They've been dominating for the past 10 years in college football. We know what they do. It doesn't matter who they play. Do they get punished for that? I mean, we know what we've seen from them. Everybody they've played, with the exception of a blowout loss to Clemson last year, they've beaten everybody. And the Deshaun Watson last play of the game, they've beaten everybody, Chaz. So what makes you say that, because of the resumes, we have to compare resumes? I know what Alabama is. I trust Alabama more than I'll trust any one of those other teams that are fighting for that fourth final spot.
It's not about trust. It's about what team, based on who they played and who they beat and who deserves to be the top football, who deserves to compete for that college football playoff. Let me ask you this. Tua is day-to-day and might not play. This is another manipulation tactic by Nick Saban. He's going to go roll a horrible Mississippi State team, and then he's going to say, oh, well, Tua was hurt, so we should be in the college football playoff because we would have beaten LSU if Tua was healthy. It doesn't matter. Injuries are part of the game, Alabama. I'm so tired of the manipulation, okay? Why shouldn't Georgia be rewarded for scheduling a home-and-home series with Notre Dame, a perennial top 25 team? Why should we reward Alabama, who refuses to go into a hostile environment on the road? I'm just so sick and tired of it. It's not the Alabama Invitational. It's looking at the resume and says, who deserves to be there? And this is just all. Then just stop the regular season, get rid of the conferences, and just pick them at the beginning of the year, and just say it's going to be Clemson, Alabama, and whoever we feel like in the other two stops. Enough's enough.
See, Chaz, and I understand where you're coming from. I understand. I think the biggest problem, and it's with the committee, and I think it's argument why we get into the argument is, what is this, bro? Is this the four best teams that we really want to see, or is it the most deserving? Because if it's the most deserving, then you can't have Minnesota at 8 and have 4 teams with 1 loss above Minnesota, because we're talking deserving, right? So that should mean the team that's undefeated should always be ahead of a team that's
has a 1 loss. Yeah.
Well, hold on. Minnesota's going to get their opportunity this week.
I know, but I'm saying if there's a difference, Chaz, because if we're doing eye tests, and you know this, Alabama's easily one of the 4 best teams overall, but your resume, I understand where you're coming from. Georgia's beating teams with winning records,
but they also have in the top 10, without question, the worst loss. It's the worst loss by far. Out of all the 1-loss teams that are fighting for that 4th spot,
South Carolina
they have the worst loss. I know they beat Notre Dame, but Notre Dame has kind of taken a step back. I mean, that's what
hurts Alabama. None of the teams that they play are ranked.
It's kind of like the LSU thing. I mean, LSU, I know they beat Alabama, but we beat Texas well. Texas has taken a step back too. I know Georgia beat Notre Dame. If Georgia beats Notre Dame in South Bend, then maybe my mind it changes. But since it was home, I think that doesn't really.
That was still a huge game.
It was at the time. But then you come back and you lose to South Carolina. Yes, Alabama hasn't played anybody, but their 1 loss is against the number 1 team in college football.
So you legitimately think, and listen, we have a lot of football left to play.
Yes, of course.
Right now, you legitimately think that Alabama's schedule of the no teams that they face in the non-conference, their best win is what? And you think that they should be in the college football playoff over a team that beat Notre Dame?
I do.
Well, Georgia's going to have to win out. The only way they're going to be able is to win out.
Chaz, I do. I still do believe that Alabama is the 4th best team in college football. I strongly believe that. I will take them because I know what I'm getting from Alabama. I know they haven't played anybody. I know.
Really?
Yes.
The last 2 real teams that they played with real offenses have mauled them. Okay, their defense can't stop a nosebleed. Okay, so they deserve to be in there. Why? Because people want to see Tua.
No, I think they're the 4th best team in the country. Let me
use my model for a second, Chaz. So this is what I was saying to Trev, and Trev said this has nothing to do with it. But I said take it from the gambling aspect, because numbers speak to what indicative of the game. If Alabama and Minnesota were on a neutral site, don't you think Alabama would be favored by 14 points? If Alabama was playing Utah, don't you think they'd be favored at least by 10? If they were playing Oregon, don't you think they'd at least be favored by a touchdown? Penn State.
Georgia, maybe they'd be probably a 4 or 5 point favorite.
No, I bet they'd be a 3-point favorite.
Okay. That's still a favorite.
But I'm saying everyone else, I'm not counting Georgia, because I think Georgia right now is most deserving at number 4 because of who they beat. But I'm just looking at the other teams, because the rest of the schedule, like Chaz said, is going to play out. But I'm talking about the Oregons, the Utahs, the Minnesotas, the Penn State, the Oklahomas. If they were matching up on a neutral site against Alabama, don't you think Alabama would be at least a 10-point favorite against all those teams?
But if you take a look at Alabama, that line against LSU was completely out of whack last week.
6 points. I think because people wanted you to think that Alabama's history, the 31-game win streak, and the home at Bryant-Denny Field, that they were just going to continue to roll over opponents. And I think, like you said last week, fool's gold if you thought Alabama was the same team as they were the last 7 years.
Their defense isn't.
Their defense is weak. They have 6 freshmen starting.
I agree. So my point to Trevor is when you say, "Oh, you know what you're going to get." Okay, there's no Julio Jones on this team. Okay, they don't have 7 guys that are going to get drafted on that defense this year. When you say trust them, how? They played Clemson. They gave up a ton of points. Okay, they played Oklahoma. Their defense got torched last year after they went up 21-0. Kyler Murray made a joke out of them, and then the LSU put up 40-something points on them. So you say that you can trust them when the last 3 times, okay, they played any decent teams, their defense got pummeled. Okay, and if it wasn't for Oklahoma State being intimidated and falling down early, I bet you Oklahoma wins that game. So when you say you can trust them off of what they did 5 years ago,
I'll trust them more than I trust Georgia or any of the other teams. Penn State, Oregon, Utah, Minnesota. I'll certainly take my trust with Alabama. I'll ride with the Tide over any of those other teams. Then don't play the regular season, Trev. No, I know. It sucks, but I want the 4 best teams. I said a couple weeks ago that I want conference champions too, but I want to see ultimately the 4 best teams. And I do believe that the 4 best teams right now are LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama.
Okay, but here's the problem. In college basketball, the best team always doesn't win the national championship.
100% true, and
that is true.
And that's what happens when you have a 64-team bracket.
But my point is, if you're the best team in the country, okay, you have an opportunity to compete. It's very simple. Win all your games, okay? Alabama had an opportunity to be in the college football playoff. Now, this can all change. Mm-hmm. They got beat at home to LSU, okay? They have not beaten a ranked opponent. So I don't think that they should get in there. And I think that at the end of the day, it can't be a predetermined, okay, this is the team that has the most NFL stars. These are the deepest rosters. These who we want to see in the college football.
All right, let me ask you this then, okay? And it's one of the games that I'm going to talk to you about is, okay, so Georgia goes into Auburn. They lose to Auburn this week. Alabama beats Auburn in the last game of the year. Doesn't get into the conference championship game. It's going to be Georgia versus LSU. LSU wins. Does Alabama still get in? No. Even with the conference, but they destroy. But who gets in over them? Does a Pac-12 team get over them?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think people are underestimating the Pac-12 because they're not on TV. They haven't been relevant. But guys, let's be honest. This Oregon team is a good football team. Okay.
I think so too.
Utah's defense is a very good football team. I think we are underrating the Pac-12 this year. Listen, I don't like watching Pac-12 football. I think people are really underestimating them. I think it's going to be Ohio State, Clemson, as long as they don't hiccup. LSU is in, barring some unforeseeable circumstance. Yeah. And then the last one's probably going to come down to Utah or Oregon, provided that they don't lose.
So I want to finish off this because we've had this discussion for a while, and we could continue this all day. So I told you this yesterday, Trevor, and I told you this. So Utah and Oregon have not beaten ranked opponents this year. Remember the thing I was showing you? Yep. Where they had Baylor and Oklahoma had beaten 3 ranked opponents this year. Now, that is what it is. The problem you're going to see is if Georgia wins the SEC championship game over LSU. So you're going to have an SEC champion possibly with 2 losses or 1 loss. You're going to have LSU, you're going to have Alabama. And the thing what's going to come down to is if LSU wins it, right? So you have LSU, Clemson, Ohio State. Are you going to take Oregon, who could win the Pac-12 championship and have 1 loss, or Alabama with 1 loss? But here's what you're going to have to look at. Alabama's 1 loss, if we're just looking at the resume, Alabama's 1 loss is to the number 1 team in the country in LSU. Oregon's 1 loss is going to be to maybe the 5th best team in the SEC in Auburn. And then you're going to be like, so who's the better loss? Are we talking better losses, or are you going to say resume? Because Oregon really hasn't played anyone other than Auburn, who's the 5th best team, and they lost. So you can't count that. Like, yeah, you played, but you lost. That doesn't count in a resume. So their best win would be Utah.
On a neutral field in the first game of the year.
Yeah. But here's the problem, though. Oregon should have won that game. You were playing a true freshman quarterback.
And they blew it.
And you were winning the game for 55 minutes.
Yeah, but my point being is you have to look at it, too. And if you're going to look at the resume, and each loss is different, right? Yeah, and I would look at it and say, okay, and the committee is obviously, guys, rewarding teams that went out and played non-challenging conference.
100%. Who has the most impressive loss? is a question you should ask. Is it Alabama or is it Oregon?
I don't think you can count losses because we got to talk about wins. Who cares about the losses, right?
Yeah, but if it came down to that, if it came down to both one-loss teams,
I would say who had the better win then. Who has the best win? Not the better loss.
I would take Alabama because they beat Auburn.
Well, guys, if you look at,
that would make sense.
That's what I said. If Alabama beats Auburn,
Oregon lost to
that's
Auburn.
what I'm trying to say. If Alabama beats Auburn and it's that one loss and Georgia gets eliminated and it's all between Oregon and Alabama, say they beat Utah, which is the better win? Is it Oregon over Utah or is it Alabama over Auburn?
I'm going to give Oregon the credit for going out and playing a non-conference team week 1. And that's what the committee basically has been saying. We're going to reward teams that play challenging non-conference schedules. So I think they're sending a clear message to Alabama. Hey, Nick Saban, stop manipulating. You had 2 weeks to prepare for LSU, and you got pumped. Enough. Go play somebody in the non-conference and stop trying to gerrymander the schedule by playing a soft cupcake game before Auburn and always having a bye week before LSU.
That's an avid Alabama supporter right there at its finest. No, we're going to get into the game so quickly. You got Michigan State. We're going to start off with your favorite team in college football, I guess. Michigan State versus Michigan. 13.5 point favorite. Wolverines. Right now, Michigan State is struggling. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They just lost to Illinois.
They blew a 25-point lead last week.
I mean, are they going to get killed in this game? Is Michigan starting to find their groove right now? We're running the football. I mean, it looks like they're starting to warm up. Who do you got in this? Me, personally, I think it's easily. I'm just going to make the pick right now. I think Michigan's going to blow them out of the stadium.
I think this is a close game, but we'll hear
This is going to be my shortest prediction of all time.
There you go.
Michigan is going to throat them. Lay the 13.5.
Okay. Sounds good. Next one. We got the midshipmen of Navy going in to South Bend to face those Fighting Irish. Who do you got in this game? Are you going with the military or are you going with the Catholic school?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. Notre Dame's going to certainly be racking up some travel rewards over the next 5 weeks. 4 out of the next 5 games are away from South Bend. And they start their road trip in Annapolis against Navy's triple option attack. Notre Dame's run defense has been stout all year. Only Wake Forest rushed for more than 170 yards against the Irish D. And Brian Kelly had a week to prepare for the midshipman ground and pound attack. All signs point to taking the Irish here with the extra time and a red-hot Ian Book. But as Senator Moynihan said, to be Irish is to know the world will break your heart. I don't think Navy will win this game. However, I think 24 is way too much in a rivalry game. I'm grabbing the 24 here.
They're a 24-point favorite?
No, 7.5.
No, I got 7.5.
Notre Dame.
I think you're looking at the wrong line, boys.
No. 24.5?
No, it's on ESPN. I got it right in front of me. Minus 7.5.
Where are you looking? Where'd you get yours?
If it's 24, I'm taking Navy 24 all day.
Take Navy. I'll take that with Navy as well.
So you know what? Who cares? I'll take them with 7.5.
Okay.
You know what? This game is always a close-knit game. Always a Navy, that triple option, you have to be sound on defense for Notre Dame.
So let's get into another big-time game right now. Minnesota, coming off the huge win, probably the biggest win in program history over Penn State. Going to Iowa. We know what Iowa's done the past couple years. They play spoiler. They beat Ohio State. They beat Michigan. Do we add the trifecta and we eliminate the Golden Gophers?
Guys, everyone's underestimating the Golden Gophers. They didn't think they could beat Penn State at home, and now they think they will beat the Hawkeyes at one of the toughest places to play in the Big Ten, Kinnick Stadium, this Saturday. You know who's more overlooked than the Gophers? Their quarterback, Tanner Morgan. He's the 4th most efficient passer in college football, only behind Hurts, Tua, and Burrow. The Gophers can still lose this game and qualify for the Big Ten championship game, but I really believe PJ Fleck's Gophers will continue to row the boat. It's not midnight yet, Trev. Grab that champagne. Cinderella's still dancing. I'm taking the Gophers with the 3.
Okay, Minnesota.
I like
we're going to finish off with the 2 big ones of the weekend, and that is the biggest game in the Big 12 up to this point and probably for the rest of the season. That's those Oklahoma Sooners going against the Cinderellas, maybe another Cinderella of college football. One of the 5 remaining teams that are undefeated currently in college football. The top 3, and that Minnesota and Baylor
and
are
Oklahoma
undefeated.
is favored by 10.5.
What do we got? Does Oklahoma end the dream season of Baylor, or does Baylor continue their Cinderella run?
Yeah, I mean, everyone was praising the Sooners defense in the beginning of the year when they were playing inferior competition, but I think over the last 2 weeks we picked up on two things. Kansas State and Iowa State carved up their defense with dynamic quarterback play. Skylar Thompson for Kansas State threw for 200 yards and ran for 4 touchdowns in the Wildcats' upset win in the Little Apple, and Brock Purdy went off for 5 touchdown passes, plus a rushing score, and the Cyclones' valiant effort in Norman. I think this is Charlie Brewer's moment to shine against an overrated Sooner defense. The Bears are disrespected by the playoff committee, and they will be fired up at home against Oklahoma. They will rule the day, and they are going to win on the field and cover the 10 points.
Wow, they're picking the upset.
That's
maybe
an upset and a
maybe
half.
the upset of the weekend. And then we're going to finish off with a big one down in the SEC. And we were just talking about a little while ago. Georgia, the number 4 team in the college football playoff ranking currently, against Auburn. Does Auburn play spoiler and end Georgia's hopes?
Guys, the Bulldogs have Auburn's kryptonite. Okay, they're going to be able to compete in the trenches on the offensive and defensive line against the Tigers. Their offensive line is one of the best in college football. They are not letting Jake Fromm get touched, and their defensive front has been rock solid against the run. Believe it or not, I know you guys love fake news, but this is the truth. Georgia's defense is ranked second in the nation behind Ohio State in scoring defense while leading the SEC in total defense. I'm not ready to believe in Bo Nix, who against formidable competition, Oregon, Florida, and LSU, he has failed to complete 42% of his passes. I'm letting the dogs out, the Georgia Bulldogs that is, and laying the 2.5 here.
Okay, Big O Kanesh.
We'll see you guys.
Thanks for joining us again, buddy. I appreciate it.
We'll see you.
Oh man, he is quite the work.
Well, see, we could have this discussion all day, and it's great because I look at the comments. Jace, he's a big Pac-12 guy,
Big
from
Utah fan, big Utah fan.
The question is going to be if Utah wins the Pac-12 and beats Oregon. See, I feel like Oregon's going to get more of the credit. Would Utah get enough of respect
Over Alabama? No.
See, I think Oregon might have.
Oregon might have the chance because of the name,
and they also played Auburn.
Yeah.
And their one loss is to Auburn, where Utah's one loss would be
to USC.
To USC. So it's what's great about college football is, unlike the NFL, it's really it's such a week to week thing where like things can dramatically change. You get the upsets, you get things. We've seen teams in the last 4 or 5 weeks, a top 5 team, it seems to be going down every week. So very interesting to see what happens going forward.
No, I know. I mean, it's only week 12. I know that. There's still a couple more weeks, but right now this is it.
And you still have the championship
when
games
you get
too.
when you get down to close to Thanksgiving, this is it. This is the time where you really got to put up or shut up. And right now, the committee's going to have a tough task once again to figure out who. Right now, 1 through 3 seems, unless barring some major catastrophe for one of those teams, an injury or something, those 3 teams are going to the college football playoff. It all comes down to who's number 4. Whereas the past couple of years, it's been, who's number 1, who's number 2. I think if it stays pat right now, number 1 would be LSU, number 2 Ohio State, and number 3 Clemson. 4 is where the $1 million question
My
is.
question would be, what would happen? God forbid LSU loses a game. A slip up, and it can happen. It's happened.
I mean, all they really got to play is Texas A&M and
listen.
And
I know it's stupid.
and Georgia,
people are gonna
most
think I'm
likely
crazy,
Georgia.
but maybe the Ole Miss game becomes tougher than a lot of people think. Ole Miss
stop sipping. Stop drinking.
Well, here's
stop drinking.
You have to
that nonsense.
Listen, you have to understand something. These are 18 to 22-year-old kids. The same model you were going to use against Minnesota, where after the big win against, they could have a down game against Iowa.
I'm gonna be quick with my predictions. I already have all my predictions right now. But I don't see Ole Miss beating LSU.
No, I know. But
I think Joe Burrow.
Listen, no one thought UNC was going to beat.
I think Joe Burrow's been on a mission, and I think last week proved that as well.
All I'm saying is no one thought UNC would compete against Clemson, and it came down to the wire when we were screaming at the house with a 1-point game. So anything is possible.
We
in
may
a college
be on
football game.
a road to Joe Burrow versus his former team. Then LSU, Ohio State, possible national championship matchup.
I don't know. That Ohio State Clemson game 2-3 would be a hell of a game.
You think?
Justin
Fields versus Trevor Lawrence for number 1 maybe next year.
That's awesome.
I'm going to get into the picks quick.
And then you could have LSU versus Alabama.
Very quickly. Michigan, I see Michigan running the house, running the state of Michigan this year. I see them beating up on Michigan State. Michigan State has just went downhill very fast. Went down really fast. And last week kind of was the ultimate sign of it. You lose to Illinois, you blow a 25-point lead. There's no way they're going into the big house and beating them. I have Michigan. They're starting to warm up offensively. Could be a scary test for Ohio State in a couple weeks. I'm going with the Big Blue. Michigan's going to roll house. I got 34-13.
So I'll do my thing like I normally do. Listen, Harbaugh hasn't recorded a win over Ohio State since taking over the program, and he's 2-2 against Michigan State in the rivalry games. And do you know Michigan hasn't defeated the Spartans in the big house since 2012? Listen, I think they will win this game. I think it'll be a closer game. This is a weird... Listen, these teams, when they play, you get such a rivalry between these two teams. Remember the fight they almost had at center field? Because Michigan State, remember, they walked the field?
Yeah.
What was it? Devin Bush.
Yeah.
It was in the middle of the field. He was kicking the grass. Listen, Michigan hasn't recorded back-to-back victories over the Spartans since winning 6 straight from 2002 to 2007. I think this game is close. I think D'Antonio pulls out all the stops, onside kicks, fake punts, fake field
So what
goals.
do you got?
I got 24-17 Michigan wins.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I didn't know.
You know I do my thing.
No, I don't need to. I just want.
You don't have to do it.
I want
can do
quick
my thing.
predictions. I want quick predictions. Fast and improved. Fast.
No, this is not. We're in a slow, methodical, just like the Navy Notre Dame game. Don't get me.
Oh, fall asleep.
Go to sleep then. I'll take the rest.
Never mind. I'm back. I'm back. Navy versus ND right now. I mean, Navy, after a terrible year last year, they went 3-10, bounced back. They're 7-2. I always love watching a game like this because I love watching the triple option. I do love watching the spread offense, but I love the triple option. I love what Navy does and Army does. I just love their type of offenses. It's so hard to defend. Notre Dame, I don't know what to make of them. I mean, they're up and down. They're too inconsistent with me. Ian Book has played well this year, but Brian Kelly, I don't know what to make of him anymore. He's kind of just like a good coach, but I don't think he'll ever get to that greatness, that great tier. I think
you also got to understand where he's coaching. He's coaching at Notre Dame. This is an academic school. This is not. This is not Alabama.
And that's why I
this
said
isn't some of the other schools. There's just like Stanford or the Northwesterns.
Notre Dame is Notre Dame, bro.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. There's academics that come
I know,
first.
but they have
you have to be able to get.
But they have a higher standard for football too.
Yeah, but you also there's a difference.
You're gonna really say that? I know
yes,
the school
because there's just a difference.
Okay.
You academically, you got to get into the school. You don't think there's a different way of getting into football at Alabama than there is at Notre Dame or University of Florida? You're going to get a different athlete. You're also going to get a different guy too. Okay. Guy goes to the University of Florida, or you're going to go to South Bend, a Catholic white school up north. There's a difference of type of player that you're going to get.
Okay.
Listen, both teams are ranked for the first time since 1978. This is the 93rd meeting between the two. I always love these games. It always comes down to the wire. Navy always makes this a tough game for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's led by their quarterback, Ian Book. I really like this kid. He's passed for over 2,000 yards. He has 21 touchdowns. He's rushed for almost 400 yards. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns. Then you look at the midshipmen. We know what they are. They are a triple option team.
Love
if you're going to play defense against them, and I ran the triple option as a high school quarterback, you have to be fundamentally sound. You have to have your responsibility, and you have to stick to it. If one guy screws up, it ruins the rest of the defense. I think this game is going to be very close. I'll take if this was a spread game, I'll take Navy with the 7.5. I think Notre Dame wins a close one, 27-24. But don't be surprised if Navy can pull off the upset late because this is a much better team than people are giving them credit for.
I'm gonna go with,
and they're led by their quarterback.
I'm gonna go with Notre Dame. I'm gonna go with Notre Dame.
The close game?
I think it's a close game. I think they're gonna have a hard time against this number 1 rushing attack right now in Navy. And this is what they do. They're gonna run the ball until you have an answer to stop them. I think ND makes a play down the stretch to seal the deal and win this. I got a score of 24-17. Low scoring, but I expect them to be right in the same range. Ooh, 24-17. 7.5 spread. They make the spread. They didn't cover.
They didn't cover.
They did.
Well, yeah.
I'm going to close out with these 3 big games. Minnesota against Iowa. Iowa, like I said, the past couple years has played spoiler to teams that are trying to make a run. Ohio State 2 years ago. And then Michigan a couple years as well. Minnesota right now is 8, coming in off the huge win. Do they get the credit still? Time will tell right now. Still, they don't get the respect. And it seems like they're just not going to. I know they moved up to 8, but you still have 4 teams in front of them that have 1 loss. Do they go into Iowa, a tough place at night, always is tough to play in, against a Kirk Ferentz team? I'm gonna go with Chaz. I'm gonna agree with them. I'm gonna ride with the Golden Gophers. I see the continued dream season. Keep moving on. I'm hoping I get to see a Minnesota-Ohio State Big Ten championship. That'd be awesome.
Well,
to
you
see.
will, because they have a 2-game lead over both.
But I would love to see them both undefeated. I think it would be awesome for Minnesota, just specifically what they've done. PJ Fleck, man, unbelievable coach. He did it with Western Michigan. He's doing it now in Minnesota. Minnesota season continues. I got a score of 31-27, even though Iowa's offense has been very bad. I got them scoring 27 points.
This is a tough game for me.
Is it, Ted?
Because I want to take, as a fan, I want to take Minnesota. Right? You want to see the streak continue. You want to see the big setup matchup for next week for the Paul Bunyan Trophy between Wisconsin and Minnesota. That would be unbelievable. You know the story of Iowa at home. It's always a tough place to play. They always seem to get at least one opponent next year. Kurt Ferentz teams are always well coached. The difference, though, I think this Minnesota team, if they can build off of last week's win, they should win this game. They are the better team, without question of doubt. They have the better quarterback. And Tanner Morgan, he's got 21 passing touchdowns this year. He's got 4 interceptions, over 2,100 yards. They can run the ball. Listen, the kid last week, Bateman from Minnesota, was a stud last week. Over 200 yards receiving against Penn State. I didn't think Minnesota had enough last week to beat Penn State, and they proved something against their defense. I think Minnesota barely survives. I think they win 27-21 at Iowa.
Okay. So you get the dream season continues.
I think it continues.
Okay.
I wanted to pick Iowa, but you know what? I'm going to stick with the Minnesota Gophers. I love PJ Fleck. I love what they're building right here.
This is what he does. He goes back and forth. He can't make up his mind.
I'm sticking with
Minnesota. I'm going to go Minnesota, but I want to maybe go Iowa. Make up your damn mind.
I did. I still stuck with it. I can have an opinion.
You have too many opinions. Let's get over to the Big 12 right now.
What do you know?
And nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing. I said nothing. The Big 12. Possible preview of the Big 12 championship. Ted, this is not the attitude I need. This is disrespectful, and that's what Baylor's getting right now. They're getting the disrespect. They haven't moved. They're dropping in the polls.
Good,
if anything. And this is their opportunity to make their.
They've won 4 conference games by 3.5 points. They've had to go
their statement win right here.
Go to TCU and Texas Tech. You got to go to triple overtimes to win games.
A win is a win.
It's called impressive win too.
I know. Well, this could be their opportunity. They've gotten disrespected so far. Oklahoma's coming in. Do they pull off the big upset? That's the big question.
Nope.
What? Oh, very simple.
There you go.
Okay.
Very simple.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts and the Oklahoma Sooners are going to win the game. It's
like handily?
No.
What do we got?
37-31 Oklahoma wins. Listen, what I think the difference is going to be Hurts' running game. He's got over 869 yards rushing. He's got 15 rushing touchdowns. I was like, holy crap. I looked at that last night. I was like, wow.
It's amazing.
It's incredible. He has really turned it around. Listen, you don't have to play great defense. You just have to play good enough defense to make 1 or 2 stops. And that could be the difference in the game. Baylor has the number 1 Big 12 defense. I know they do. But they haven't played an offense like Oklahoma all season. And sorry, when you play games that continuously are close and close, one time it's going to bite you in the butt. Now, maybe the home field advantage gets you 3 or 4 points, but it ain't going to make a difference in the scoreboard when Jalen Hurts is throwing it all over the field.
Okay.
So Oklahoma wins 37-31. Sorry, Baylor's Bears. See you later. See you in the Big 12 championship in the rematch where you'll lose again.
37-31. Okay. I got Oklahoma too as well. I think
Boomer Sooner, baby.
Boomer Sooner is rolling past the Bears. They're going to run them over. I mean, Baylor, unbelievable season. Matt Mule has done an unbelievable job. He's another great coach
of the year.
Him
and PJ Fleck, coach of the year, top 2 candidates easily.
Yeah. I mean, that's a toss-up right now. That could go. Maybe they'll have a coach of the year. They
can't have co. It's either coach.
They've had co-MVPs. They've had.
They don't have. Do they have co-Heismans? Do they have Maxwell's? No, it's coach of the year.
Because Heisman, it's pretty simple. It's the best.
Is it?
Is it that really? Matt Mule or PJ Fleck? You know how to pick instantly? Do you know who to pick?
Yeah.
If you're the pick
Give
coach
me the end of the season, I'll pick.
But right now, I'm not talking about 5 weeks from now. I'm talking about right now. Who is the coach of the year then? You make it seem so, huh?
The guy from
Matt Mule?
Yeah. Because of where he's that team after the Art Briles thing almost got the death penalty.
Minnesota was very bad. Minnesota was not a good team.
But
and
they
PJ
didn't,
Fleck.
but they also didn't have to suffer the penalties and the reputation of what Baylor University and the football team. They almost lost their program.
Good stuff.
And that's why I give them the benefit of doubt.
Good stuff. I like it. I can respect that. I got Oklahoma winning as well, though. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think
Has to be. It's Big 12.
you can only. Yeah, it's Big 12.
What, are they going to play 7-3?
No, never know.
Shit. I mean, the SEC had 45-41 last week.
Yeah. I'm going to go Oklahoma. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I got 44-34. I think their offense is too much to handle for the Baylor Bears. They've had some close calls. TCU, Texas Tech. I mean, back and forth games. I think they finally come back to life, and Oklahoma brings them back to life. I got the Sooners rolling. And then let me close out with the last game and the big one in the SEC. The Georgia Bulldogs, 4th ranked in the college football playoff against those Auburn Tigers. What do we have going here? Auburn, do they play spoiler? Can they make a run? Don't know what's going to happen with them. Bo Nix against, I mean, I said this, Jake Fromm. And we were saying maybe Jake Fromm needs another year or so. But Jake Fromm versus Bo Nix. I think that's what it comes down to. The defense.
Were you in my head?
No.
Because exactly what I was going to say.
It just comes down to this. When I think of matchups like this, it always comes back to the quarterbacks. Jake Fromm, the experienced leader, against the freshman that's been so, like, I don't know what to make of him.
He's up and down.
What kind of
He's
game
impressive at home. He hasn't played well against on the road. Listen,
But they're home. They are home.
They are home. I like both coaches and Kirby Smart and Gus.
You're not getting a lot of offense
Both
this
defenses are great. Chaz said it right. Both programs rank top 5 when it comes to total offense. Now that's funny. In total offense too. Georgia's 3rd, Auburn's 5th.
Yep.
But both teams highly ranked in defense. The Tigers have ranked 3rd in the SEC in scoring defense. That's as Auburn at 17 points per game. But the Bulldogs are 2nd nationally in scoring defense at 10.1. They're 5th nationally in total defense at 260 yards. And here's another thing. I didn't realize this. The Georgia Bulldogs, and I sent you this on Instagram last night.
Oh, yeah.
Are the only team right now that have not given up a rushing touchdown in
It's
college
never been
football.
done before.
And through 9 games, it's never been done before.
Never been done before. That's an unbelievable
Both teams have NFL talent all over the field. Derek Brown's going to be a top 15 pick from D-line. The offensive tackle from Georgia might be the number 2 or 3 pick in the draft. It's going to be a great game to see. Another SEC great matchup. And this sets up for some very interesting matchups.
Interesting storylines going forward.
Very much so.
Who you got?
Who do you have?
I got the Auburn Tigers.
What do you
I
got
do
for-
not.
what do you got for score?
I do not think this Georgia team is a good enough team. I do not think they're for real. And I'm sorry, I do not think they're one of the 4 best teams in college football. I mean, their defense has been great. Offense has been so suspect. They got to start running the ball, getting back to just ground and pound with DeAndre Swift, setting the play action with Jake Fromm. They haven't been able to do that. This is not going to be a high-scoring game. I got 21-17 in favor of the Tigers, knocking Georgia out of the college football playoff.
I'm going to roll with the Georgia Bulldogs. I think they're on a roll right now. I think we're setting up for a matchup of Georgia LSU in the SEC championship game where we're going to have 2 top 4
I think that
opponents.
I think Auburn's going to win and going to set up that Auburn-Alabama game to be massive for Alabama. It's all setting up. It's all setting up, my friend.
If you're Alabama, you're rooting for Auburn.
It's all setting up for Alabama to get back into the college
and the only reason why I say
football
that, I just think
gonna happen.
Jake Fromm, he's got to have a game to win a game. Like, he's got to be.
He's got to take that moment. He's got to have that moment.
He hasn't had that moment this year.
What did I say at the beginning of the year about Georgia? He needs to be a Trevor Lawrence. He needs to be a Tua. He needs to have moments. He needs to be a Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow had his moment last week.
He needs to be a Joe Burrow. That's why guys like Justin Herbert, Jake Fromm, good quarterbacks. I need to see even Jalen Hurts
needs to have that type of game.
I need to see the moments. Jake Fromm, this is your moment. Can you go into Auburn and pull off and get out of there with a big win? If not, you're the same old Georgia Bulldogs.
I'll take Georgia 20-17 over Auburn.
Okay. Well, time will tell. We'll see what happens. It's a big games. A great slate of games this week, so let's enjoy those. I know I will be. Ladies and gentlemen, we are taking our final break. When we come back, we'll be joined by the Joseph Aguiar to talk some New York Yankee baseball and also the Houston Cheatstros. We'll talk about that all. Keys to the City. We'll be right back, folks.
we've got sports. Here on Keys to the City, brought to you by All Noise Radio. Here's your hosts, Trevor and Ted.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. As he's walking in, here he is. The Joseph Aguiar is joining us. You ready? Ready to do this?
Oh, yeah. Born ready, friend.
I need a couple paper towels. Thank you. Need a couple paper towels.
What happened?
I dropped some water.
Oh.
I'm a mess.
Literally the worst thing you could do.
Speaking of messes right now, we're not going to start with the New York Yankees.
Just cover your face.
Speaking of messes, right now the MLB has a mess going on with the Houston Cheatstros. I call them the Cheatstros
I like it.
now. That's what has happened. I mean, you know about it. If you haven't known, you're like it's kind of like the Myles Garrett thing. You're living under a rock of what's going on in the MLB right now. 2017, this is from 2017, could be happening for the past couple of years. I don't know if it happened this year as well. That must mean it has. But
yeah,
you know the story. You know what's going on. The Houston Astros, in my case, the Houston Cheatstros. My God, what does this mean for the MLB? I mean, I know Houston looks like this is going to be bad for them.
You know they're going back to 1951, the Bobby Thompson home run hit around the world.
What are you talking about?
Supposedly, there's a thing now that he knew the certain pitch. 1951. The Giants.
I know. We're going to rewrite history again. Here we go. Just like the world nowadays.
We don't need to get. I'm just saying. It was. They're going back now.
As long as professional sports have been
technology's always been used.
People are cheating, and when I would say more often than not, when technology's invented, teams in organized sports are like, how can we use this to cheat? And there's really two opinions on this right now. There's the, what are you going to do? And there's the, you got to do something. And ultimately, baseball will do nothing.
Oh, no, they will.
Oh, they have. Joe, they have to.
I wish you heard Russo yesterday, Mad Dog.
$500,000 fine.
Joe, if they don't do anything,
they'll take some draft.
You know what Mad Dog said? What? First things first, he goes, AJ Hinch, 25-game suspension. The GM, 50 game suspension. The organization, $1 million fine.
100 games. And the whole team, 100 game suspension. Can't play. They can
everybody.
They can win only 62 games.
Sorry, Steve. The Astros are not winning. And then he said take some draft picks away. But they have to do it quick. They have to do it because the longer this prolongs, it kind of.
Joe, if you think that they're not going to get a punishment. This would be like the NFL dropping the ball on the Myles Garrett thing, which they didn't. This would be dropping the ball major on Rob Manfred.
Appropriate? I mean, what is taking draft picks away?
Suspension.
Or let me ask you something. You think of AJ Hinch? Let's say they suspend it for 25.
Joe has a job next year for 25 games for the Houston Astros, and he'll go 21-4.
I don't think so.
Why not?
No, he's not. Are we going back with this Yankee thing?
There's a good chance that AJ Hinch will be in his office during those games, and I'm just going to guess based on the solid technology in Houston that he'll be sending plays right through the wall to him. So it's ultimately not going to hurt them. What they should do is what they do in football, like college football. Take the championship away.
So they won't.
You think?
No, I know.
I know.
I think that's too. I
understand that, but again, so to me, there is no other justice. Taking some draft picks away is not going to hurt that team.
You know, I saw another part that
it's
says,
just not.
Don't put them on national television for the first half of the season.
So do you think it's
just for ratings? Why you?
Yeah, but so the expression is cutting off your nose to spite your face. One of the top teams. I'm going to take one of the top teams off the docket.
Yeah, no.
And how am I going to sell that to my broadcast partners?
No, I know. I saw.
I mean, again, these are all great
crazy
ideas.
Yeah.
There should be a punishment, and maybe the punishment's going to be what it's been for the steroid era guys, where we'll always know. Little asterisk next to 2017.
And I don't look
at it the wrong way.
Is it it's a tainted championship then?
It's got to be a tainted championship again. And look at this team over the last 3 years, and you look at their home record.
You can't just talk about
their road record, and you got to really wonder. There's a clear advantage at home to that team, and not for nothing, the Yankees brought up the whistling this postseason.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then next thing you know, the Astros lose every single game at home.
Well,
something happened.
In the 2017, the Astros won all the home games.
Right.
In 2019, they lost in the World Series. Yeah.
After the Yankees, you remember after Game 1, they said there was whistling going on.
Yeah, they played it. I saw it on Twitter.
If you think there was just some random whistling, And the Yankees started picking. I mean, you pick up on these things. They're stealing signs. We're picking up on you stealing signs. So right now we're going to start throwing down multiple signs. That's the game that we're
It's
playing.
always been happening, too.
It is.
Guys always steal signs.
It is. And again, I heard A-Rod talking about this yesterday. They're stealing signs, and then there's that line that we don't cross. Yeah. And these guys have clearly crossed the line. A.J. Hinch, during the postseason against the Yankees, laughed off the idea that they were stealing signs. All the while, Major League Baseball was still investigating what they did in 2017.
And now they're going to 2019.
So this is really bad news. Okay? This was a team. This would be like if Tom Brady during Deflategate was had a flat ball in his hand, and he's like, well, I don't know what everyone's complaining about. I mean, come on, man. You got to start blowing the balls up.
So if you think this is so serious, then why do you think there would be so light on the punishment?
What did they do with the steroid era?
Not getting into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but now
those guys are not going to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but now it's
all those guys. Yeah, it's a slap on the wrist, but all those guys ultimately are not getting into the Hall of Fame.
I disagree. I think this season, it's very likely Bonds and Clemens get in, and who's not in?
I don't think so.
Who's not in? McGuire and Sosa?
Palmeiro.
You could Palmeiro. Well, you could make the argument against all three of those guys. As whether it be as compilers,
A-Rod,
low batting average.
A-Rod's another one.
Sure.
Canseco.
Well, Canseco wasn't getting in. But I think A-Rod will serve his time, and he will eventually get in.
Because he's almost doing he's doing all these good. He's got a new show coming called Back in the Game. He's on all these networks.
It's like a vindication story.
He's on MLB.
The ultimate one.
He's on MLB. He's on ESPN announcing the game. He was on the
but that's
network.
my thing. I just you say that this is crossing the line, and teams should be pissed about this. But you think there's going to be nothing's going to happen with this.
I mean, it's again. Like I said, $1 million fine. Maybe
the owner's got worth $1 billion.
Maybe you suspend Jim Crane for a year. Whatever. Again, I'm just saying, whatever you're going to do, you're not taking the championship away. And I get that. I understand that. You didn't take the steroid records out of the books. So we're stuck with what we're stuck with. So ultimately, whatever you're going to do is going to be either a slap on the wrist or a really hard slap on the wrist. But at the end of the day, the Yankees still got screwed, and you're not going to do anything about that.
How do you feel about Cora and Beltran getting investigated right now?
You got to do your due diligence, though.
That's what I'm saying. This is a huge deal. And now the Red Sox have to deal with this.
Scandal.
And the Mets. The Mets just got a new manager, and they already got to deal with him.
Of course.
Think about that. And the Red Sox got to deal with it, though.
You also got to look at it from this perspective. So and this is why I'm bringing this, because I heard it on Mad Dog yesterday, the Russo. What about Verlander? Look at what he's done since he's been a Houston Astro and his home record.
Redeemed himself his whole career.
He has redeemed himself. Now, you could say, hey, listen, he's still great. Yeah, he's still great.
Yeah.
But knowing certain things, how many more wins did he acquire because of certain technology techniques in Houston as a pitcher? Does he deserve a Cy Young? 5 extra wins, 3 extra wins, 2 extra wins got him the Cy Young over Cole.
Got him 21 wins.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
got him 21 wins. His ERA, he's home. There's certain advantage.
And if that was
he turned himself around when he left Detroit. All of a sudden, he was like he was rejuvenated, like the fountain of youth. He was no good at the end of Detroit.
Everybody thought it was Kate Upton, but I think it might be sign stealing.
Then he went
but also, how long has that thing actually been in that area that they've been saying?
Well, Mike Fears, the ex-pitcher from that, said at least since 2017.
Well, okay, so has it been in the same position?
Yes.
Since 2017 is in that center field wall?
Well, maybe where it was before wasn't working, and they were like, hey, move it over there. Oh, this is working.
And listen, they probably paid some.
Yeah,
they probably paid some scrub like a guy like us and say, here, we're going to give you $20,000. We're going to operate it. Every time you're just going to send us a little tap single, and the guy behind the dugout's just going to go like the Brett Gardner.
How should
it makes a difference if you know if a breaking ball pitch is coming or not a fastball.
Again,
every little
if you
inch
know it's
matters.
not a breaking ball and you can sit fastball and you're a halfway decent Major League Baseball player, that is a monstrous advantage for you.
How bad does this look for the MLB right now? And just dealing with all this nonsense.
I think they've got to be thankful that the Nationals won the World Series. Because
true.
My goodness,
if they win again,
oh yeah.
How do you,
This would be a disaster if you were talking about 2017 and say they'd won it again.
Yeah.
And again, having already been accused by the Yankees, and we're investigating whether there was more to that story. That would be devastating to baseball.
And
There's already people that don't like baseball. And I think for a lot of people,
this adds more fuel to the fire. And here's the thing. If we're only talking about the 2017, and I really think it was probably more of a postseason thing than regular season, because that's where you really want the advantage. You're not looking so much in the regular season, like whatever, okay.
But you got to work the system out during the regular
exactly.
season.
But here's
Make
the thing.
sure it works.
They played the Yankees in the ALCS in 2017. They are a different team when they were home those 4 games and when they won than they were on the road. Their batting average, everything dropped.
It's almost like they knew what was... Never mind.
Coming. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It stinks. Technology is always going to be part of the game, especially now where everything.
what is the future of the MLB with this whole thing happening?
Well, hang on.
Future is bright.
How about this, for instance?
Well, with this whole situation, how do they move on and correct this issue?
Assuming that they cheated, and it was successful, and I'm based on the report, 2017, yes. I'll assume 2019, they haven't finished the investigation. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say they find that the Astros were stealing signs, and that cost the Yankees the series. Now you've got Yankee fans who are losing their mind, want everybody out of town, and it's like, well, these guys were cheating, though. They were cheating. Like, we had no chance. We weren't going to win this thing. Like, that was just one more, like, not only did you have to beat Verlander and Cole and Greinke,
You had to beat the camera.
you also had to beat cameras and guys flashing signs and all sorts of stuff.
And whistleblowers.
You whistleblowers. Listen, I told you I didn't think the better team won that series. And I'm more convinced of it today than I was when that series ended.
And you talk about this year or
Correct.
2017?
This season and 2017 applies. Because I think the Yankees were I don't think the Yankees were a better team roster-wise. I think the Yankees outplayed the Astros in that series and couldn't beat them at home. And now we know why.
Could be, yeah. I guess so.
This is fact now.
It's factual.
This is fact.
That's facts.
And again, I think for Yankee fans who are ready to blow the whole thing up, get rid of Stanton and Sanchez and Paxton and Happ and everybody else, I mean, it literally took a coordinated effort.
Not even Yankee fans. How should baseball teams feel? All 28 other teams.
I think the other 28 teams don't mind that it happened to them by the Astros because it affected the Yankees negatively. And that seems to be the mindset throughout the game.
As long as the Yankees keep losing,
it hurts the Yankees, even if it hurts us too, that's fine as long as it hurts the Yankees. That seems to be the mentality that I've gotten just being on Twitter the last 24 hours. That seems to be the sentiment, like nobody cares.
I don't praise the Patriots. I don't know where you get that from. I definitely don't praise the Patriots. He's like, you guys praise the Patriots, but
Who
rip
said
the
that?
Astros.
Oh my God. I don't praise the Patriots.
Listen.
They just they've been so great and consistent. I'm sorry. When your teams win for 20 years,
I'm going to
what do
make
you
a
want me to say?
statement that's probably not the most comfortable. It ain't cheating unless you get caught. That's the only cheating is only indicative if you actually get caught. If you do your thing and you don't get caught, it's not cheating.
What is it?
It's just doing what you. I'll take Steve words. It's taking advantage of whatever you can as a player, as a team to get that.
If you're
thing.
not cheating, you're not trying. Is that the mentality that
Why
we're
not?
coming at it
Wow.
with?
It's only listen.
Ted's setting a bad precedent right now. All of our followers.
No, it's not because
Can I throw something out of nowhere?
it's only looked negatively when
already
you
got something out of it.
This is going to be so left field, but Usain Bolt, I have always insisted something's wrong there.
What the hell did that?
How could that guy be so much better than everybody else? Everybody in that sport cheats except for that guy, and all he does is beat all the cheaters.
Well, I will say this though.
that was
he
from
is.
left field.
Well,
That's like way.
I'm just saying.
Here's the thing. An advantage of that, and I know is one thing is he's 6'4".
Oh, I
Most of
understand.
those runners are 5'11".
Yeah.
And your stride is a half stride.
New
over.
segment.
It's like me and Trev. You ever seen Trev run?
Yeah,
Track.
track and field.
You ever seen Trev run? Like down the base path, he looks like he takes 1,000 steps to get to first base.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, trying,
Listen,
bro.
my point is when something seems
That's how I roll.
when something seems odd or like, whoa, that's weird. Bond's 73 home runs. Everybody was like, oh, or again, think about Sammy Sosa in '98, and then think of Sammy Sosa in '96. Sammy Sosa in '96 was like a 15 home run hitting guy.
By 2001, he was hitting 500-foot home runs.
I mean, what? Like,
Remember Jose Bautista?
yeah, listen,
But it was good for baseball.
It was, and that's
Because of-
always the mentality baseball.
But this
takes.
is-
Look,
but
the
that's
Yankees losing to the Astros. The Yankees can't get over the hump.
That's different.
They
this
love
is not
that.
a good look for baseball.
I think it is a good look for baseball. I think it's exactly what baseball wants. It's the Yankees. Listen, it's the Yankees in the ALCS. But not the boring like it was in the late 90s where they just won it every single year. I don't think people like that.
You know what people are going to say?
I did.
You know what people are going to say? The Yankees weren't just good enough. The Red Sox had no problem beating the Astros last year or 2 years ago. If you
Well,
want
that's
to go.
because they have the same sign-stealing guys.
Alex
like
Cora.
Cora.
You know what? They probably didn't do it to Alex Cora because
Right.
they knew.
I'm sure Cora was like, listen, I hear banging, buddy. You're in big trouble.
AJ Hinch.
I will call the commissioner's office if I hear one whistle or one bang on a wall.
If you're a team with the Red Sox and the Mets and dealing with this right now, you're trying. I mean, especially Beltran. He's a new manager. He's trying to get.
I don't think he's really going to have to deal with it. They're going to ask him some questions. He's going to deny it. And
All right, we'll
he's gonna
see.
move on.
Time will tell. Speaking of the Yankees, we're going to talk to the New York Yankees. And Brian Cashman came out. Different kind of attitude from last year to this year.
That'll happen when you're sleeping on the streets.
Last year, the big names were Patrick Corbin, Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, and he really didn't say anything. This year, it was quiet last year. This year, he's come out and already said, I know it's obvious. Oh, we're going to go. They have to go do this. It's obvious. But he's already has been stating it multiple times. Think it's smoke and mirrors, or do you think it's actual all talk that he's going after full on, all in for Cole and Strasburg?
I think it's the more likely scenario is one or both. I think Cole is their number one target.
Yeah.
I think, again, being that it's Scott Boras, I think we all understand Cole's going to get more money than Strasburg and a better deal. And so I think it behooves the Yankees to find out a little bit about both, because if you can get numbers on Strasburg, it'll sort of help you figure out what's Cole going to get. And then you'll decide whether you're in or not.
Yeah, and I still think Strasburg is probably more likely going to sign with the Nationals. I think I would give that more of a 50% chance that happens.
They said Cole is the favorite to sign Cole is the Yankees.
Yeah, but then you know what the thing is? That is every year the same.
No, that's not.
Yeah, it is. The Machado, because the Yankees have the most money.
No, they
and the
never said
Yankees have
Machado. I don't think they ever
every
thought
time there's
Machado
a big-
or Harper
listen,
was the favorite to go to
well,
Yankees.
think
I
about this.
swear to
When's
God
the-
he was coming to the Yankees.
Think about this.
Machado?
Oh, I thought it was a coup. I
Think
thought
of-
it was going to be like one of those
Hey.
when they, hey, guess what we did?
Hey, think
Without-
about this.
you thought without
Every
question?
year, though, when have
really
the
did.
Yankees not been in on a big-time free agent? When's the
Correct. But here's the thing. Look, you go back to the trading deadline last year. There were deals to be had. Brian Cashman didn't like any
Yeah,
of
of
them.
course.
He didn't make a move.
But there was no good move to made.
And it worked out. It was the no move was the right move. The idea that look, Patrick Corbin, and I know he did all right.
He did pretty good in the
He did all right.
in the postseason. He was good.
He was okay. I'll give you he was pretty okay. How's that sound?
No, give me at least he was good.
At the he was decent. Patrick Corbin doesn't strike fear in the hearts of anybody. He's not the money they're paying him and the results they got are. It wasn't worth it.
I wouldn't put
And
him
if
at
the
our
Yankees-
number one, though.
If the Yankees signed Corbin, he would have been the number one guy in the rotation.
No, Severino would have been the number
He
one.
would have been the number one guy in the rotation because Severino wouldn't have been there.
How would you? What do you mean?
Because he was injured.
No, I'm pretending he's before the season.
Pretending?
Severino,
Now we're
Before the season,
now we're
I'm saying,
pretending.
but once it happened, Corbin would have been your ace. Maybe they don't get Paxton.
No, they probably would have because
I'm just saying maybe they wouldn't have though. Maybe I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
I understand. Similar
everything could
picture.
have been
Maybe the Yankees
different.
look at it this way:
Yes.
we got Paxton for a lot less, and we didn't have to pay that type
Correct.
of money compared to what Corbin is. And we look at them in the same boat as, hey, they're both lefties. They don't have overpowering stuff. They both have great stuff. They both can win a Cy Young. But
Sounds like two good pitchers to me.
I take Paxton over Corbin all day. twice on Sunday.
Well, don't forget Corbin pitches in the NL, and we've talked about
that's
this.
the other
Pitching in the NL is a lot easier than pitching in the AL because just look at the DH position. Just look at the teams.
Are you
in general are better?
Look,
are you saying
everybody that goes to the National League turns their career around? Anybody who starts in the AL and goes to the NL dominates. And when you bring NL guys to the American League, what happens?
Unless they're a DH, unless they need a hit.
So, do you think Cole is a must for the Yankees? Is he without question the top priority this year?
Listen, if they sign Zach Wheeler and that's it, then I would be like,
would you be happy
I would
with
be
that?
massively disappointed.
Well,
I would be massively disappointed.
How about Bumgarner? Because I heard
I don't want Bumgarner.
You heard the
either.
Yankees are in on Bumgarner. But here's the thing, and I read the report, and I wish I had it printed out.
I think that's what the Yankees are going to do.
I got it.
And he's a beach bum. What's he going to do in New York?
Okay, so
where's he going to surf?
I think that's what the Yankees are going to ultimately do. I think
Ace.
they're going to get a Wheeler or a Bumgarner. I really do, Jeff.
Then don't waste the money.
No, but I hate that feeling because you have a guy like Cole and Strasburg who are number one aces, can turn your pitching staff around just like that.
Of course.
Bumgarner and you do Corbin, or Bumgarner and who's the other guy that I'm thinking of?
Oh, the one we were just talking about?
Yeah, Wheeler. That I can see that happening. I could just see it happening just because.
Yeah, right. That's signing Jarrett Wright.
Well, and
you know what I mean?
Well,
that's
here's
like
the thing.
getting Jarrett Wright and Sidney Ponson.
The thing I've heard about Wheeler, though,
it's like
is
Sonny
starters.
Gray. It's like getting
not,
Sonny Gray.
They're starters and they're not the ones we had. I guess that's better.
And I think a lot of teams go like this when they look at Zach Wheeler. He has ace stuff. And people think if I can get
not
him into
a guy
my
that can't stay healthy,
organization,
not giving
and I can
money.
use my pitches, maybe I can get the best out of Zach Wheeler that the Mets
not giving money to a guy that can't stay healthy.
Well, think about this. If Jacob deGrom was on the Astros or Yankees, he would win 30 games.
20.
So it just
we'll get into the
definitely 30.
But here's the thing, and I said I found the
maybe
report.
31.
So Trev, I found the report. So we know about the Yankees. The thing is about the money. Cashman has specifically said there's no maximum payroll, but it's doubtful the team wants to go over the $210 million luxury tax. So if they sign either Garrett, Cole, or Strasburg, they won't be able to stay under the 210 because they already have that money built into the contracts that they have on the team. And with the motto of next man up, you won't be re-signing Dellin Betances. You won't be signing Gardner. You won't be re-signing Didi. So that where you're going to lose, where this year was about depth, you're going to say, it's okay, I'll lose.
But then maybe that depth that we've been talking about, that's why we've pretty much complimented it because we've had so much depth. Now we get back to having a normal roster and all these question marks that we had this year get thrown out the window.
You know how it is, Trev. It's like football. You can pay a superstar, but you're going to lose. You pay the superstar quarterback, but you're going to lose two linemen because you can't re-sign everyone. No, the Yankees can. They can pay anyone they want. They can pay him $500 million here, $500 million here. We can make the trade for Lindor, have him our starting shortstop, give a bunch of prospects and depth. We can go sign Garrett Cole for $300 million and say, there's our team. But if anyone gets hurt, you're a liability.
There goes the fans.
And the Yankee tickets are going to go up a hell of a lot.
I guess you could make that argument, but that's what happened to the Yankees this year, and everybody got hurt, and it worked out. And it wasn't like this team built for depth. It just happened to be that every person they were like, hey, we're going to need you for a couple weeks. Mike Tauchman or Cameron Maben or
Mike Ford.
They're like, yeah, what do you want? 6-7 home runs this week? I'll do it. It was insane. You're not going to see that again. I do think Dellin Betances is not going to go elsewhere. I definitely see him coming back.
But he's going to have to get more. The thing is, if you sign a guy like that, you're going to have to give him a certain type of deal.
They have enough pieces that they still need to add that I don't think staying under 210 is realistic. And if you're going to get up to like 215, 220, why not just go 290 and just give Cole whatever he wants?
Well, because of the luxury tax. I also think
who cares?
Because this is why I'm going to go back to your
top priority.
Oh God!
Well, here's my point. The reason I say that is because we've talked about this early in the season. You still got to pay Sanchez and Judge. Sanchez and Judge.
Sure.
What are you going to give them?
Well, Ellsbury comes off the books.
Yep. CeCe comes off the books.
CeCe's off the books.
Ellsbury's not. He's still got $21 million next year.
Right. And then he's off the books. But I'm saying after next season, you're talking about retooling after this upcoming season. So I'm saying if you blow the bank this year, you do have money coming off the books.
You're not trading for Lindor though either. Because
Tanaka will be done as well. His contract.
You're going to have.
I'll take a Cole, Severino, and Paxton as my three-headed monster.
I think that would be fantastic.
You think?
Yeah.
With Devin Garcia coming up and Jordan Montgomery.
And then Jordan Montgomery as well. I mean, I'll take that. I won't have no issue with that.
So can we get into it? One last thing. He wants to speak about it.
Let's close.
We always speak about it. Let's talk about
the awards.
The awards.
I thought the Houston Astros were getting a clean sweep of the awards.
It is. Listen.
Here we go.
I know there's a lot of baby boomers out there, and I know you guys are of this mindset. The millennial, the participation award, and all that crap.
I'm older than the millennial, so I think
But that ultimately, to me, is what is happening right now in baseball with the analytics. No, Trout. I'll talk about Trout in a minute. I'm going to start with DeGrom. Jacob DeGrom.
He hosed it.
11-8 this year.
Scherzer was 11-7.
Scherzer finished third.
Seven.
Ryu finished second.
7 wins above a replacement player. Okay?
Here we go.
Here's the math. 32 starts. You're telling me
that's what made the playoffs.
That any other starter who would have been pitching in Jacob DeGrom's spot would have won 4 games in 32 starts. Who's this replacement player? Anthony Young? If you don't know who Anthony Young is, Google him. That's a funny joke. Anyway.
I don't think our listeners probably might know.
It's funny. Trust me on that.
Might think,
he was a Met. But anyway, listen. Ultimately, last season the argument was this guy had a season for the ages. And I reluctantly was like, 10 wins, all right, fine. He didn't pitch as well this year as he did last year.
Last year was historic.
That's because he had a slow start, but DeGrom's numbers.
I'm lost by this. Also, last year, Severino's 14-2 at the break with an ERA of 1.90, right?
Yeah.
At the break, he's killing it. Starts the All-Star game the whole 9. Goes 5-6 in the second half. What's the argument? He's not an ace. No consistency. DeGrom starts the year 4-7 with a 3.27, and people are like, he'll turn it around. He's still an ace. How does that work? But he only went 7-1. I mean, a great second half, 7-1, but still.
So here's the thing: the kid from the Dodgers, Ryu, had an awful August, 7.48 ERA, and he failed. I think if he at least maintained down the stretch, he would have won the award. Scherzer, he's great, but he had multiple stints on the DL, and I think the analytics plays a huge part, probably more than 50%. Listen, you said it, 7-1 after the All-Star break, 1.44 ERA, and held opposing batting averages under. He was the best, under 179.
He was the best pitcher in the NL.
If he's the best pitcher in the NL, it just speaks to the sad state of the National League.
Well, he led
who would you put?
the NL in strikeouts.
Scherzer?
Steven Strasburg.
No.
Steven Strasburg finally had the kind of season that you've been waiting your entire life
they had Scherzer
for
over
him to have.
They had Scherzer as the better.
Scherzer was great this year. The whole voting was stupid. I mean, the same thing, Cole getting robbed. And let's go.
I'm more surprised.
Do you know? Let's go to my Trout. Let's back
DeGrom also had like 6 games blown after having the lead going into the 7th. Now I know that's not his fault.
Major league record, by the way, 30 straight starts, 3 runs or less.
Who?
DeGrom. Congratulations on doing your job.
Yeah, but how many guys do
Nobody
that job?
does. Not many people
in the National League, probably more than you'd think.
You're still going against professionals.
But it's your job.
Yeah, here's the thing. I know, but here's
what you're supposed to do.
He was the 3rd best pitcher in baseball this year, behind Cole and Verlander. DeGrom. Now,
at times.
Yeah, and here's my thing.
At times.
Don't you think if DeGrom was on the Astros, if you took Verlander and slipped DeGrom out, don't you think DeGrom would have had the season that Verlander had on that type of team?
So here's the thing.
I'm just asking.
CC Sabathia, 2008.
I remember he said,
He loves it.
2008. He goes to Milwaukee. He's dominant, right?
He was unbelievable when he got after a traded.
And why did he have to pitch like that? Let's be honest.
He had to get the Brewers hosed him.
The Brewers were a little better than mediocre. You're pitching for your life. You sign with the Yankees the next season, and suddenly you're getting like 6 runs a game. It's a different. You're pitching differently. they have some of these stupid stats where it's like, they sort of take all things considered. They take out wind and all the elements, and it's like, well, this is what you would do. And it's like, but that's what really happens.
No, I understand.
That's what literally really happens.
When it's 1-0, you pitch better. You can't
analytically break down the intent of a pitch. Okay? CC up 6-0 in the third. He's throwing fastballs. He's not nitpicking. He's not working the corners. He's throwing fastballs. Gives up 3 solo homers over the last 4 innings. Is that a good day or a bad day?
No, I totally understand, because we've talked about things. Because you
would say it's a bad day.
No, you agree. Because
you just look at
when it's 1-0, you pitch differently than when you're up 7-0.
1,000%. Yeah. Ultimately, and I'll tell you what, because I wrote an article earlier in the year, and I'm not even trying to promote the article, but it's on Medium.
He's trying to promote the article.
So you might as well read it. But
he's trying to promote the article.
What I noticed about all of these top pitchers, anybody that gets 6 runs, and every single one of these guys at some point gets 6 runs or more in a start, be it Verlander, Herman, DeGrom, they're all undefeated when they get 6 runs of support. Everybody's 4-0, 5-8, 7-0.
When they're getting 1 to 2 runs.
When they get 3 to 5 runs, that's where you really find out what kind of pitcher you have.
That's why Jacob DeGrom is unbelievable.
You get into 3 to 5, and this is where you start to see, and it's interesting, a little bit higher ERAs from a lot of these guys. In the tighter games, the 4-3 games, these guys don't statistically pitch as well. And when they get 3 runs or less, they are all terrible. Cole's terrible. Verlander's terrible. DeGrom's terrible. None of these guys
the Mets bullpen is terrible.
Nonsense. Last year, I let everybody go, the bullpen historically bad. Well, all right, fine. 10 wins, give it to them. This year, they had a better bullpen. The fact that they suck does not get any consideration in the awards. The fact that your team sucks. Last year, nobody was like, well, listen, Kyle Freeland had a 3.21 ERA pitching in Coors. Let's be honest, that's like a 1.6 at Shea.
So this leads into his point about Mike Trout. Team sucks, but he's the best player in baseball.
So, right, the award is most valuable. It's not best player in baseball. It's not analytically speaking the most superior player.
So who?
No, don't change the award. They have awards for the best all-around player. It's the Henry Aaron Award, and they give it out. And if you want them to make a bigger deal about it so all the Mike Trout fans can get super excited,
he would have won it every year.
You've never even seen Mike Trout play more than like 3 games in a row. You're all lying. None of you are Angels fans. He comes to town, he plays your team, he hits a couple of home runs, he steals a base, throws a guy out from left. He's the best player in baseball. You've never seen Mike Trout.
Are you not? Are you staying?
And I'll tell you another thing.
Hold on.
Look up Mike Trout's numbers with runners in scoring position. Look at his numbers when there's guys on base, 2 outs, runners in scoring position. He's awful. When the team's behind, he's a terrible hitter.
Are you stating right now that Mike Trout is not the best player in baseball?
I'm saying Mike Trout is a 5-tool phenom, and it's fun to watch him play. His impact on that team is virtually nothing.
I love what one of the guys wrote on. You posted something, and then one of the guys commented. Remember, he goes, if Mike Trout's not on the Angels, what do they lose? 10 more games, and they still don't make the playoffs, and the worst team in the division. He goes, if DJ LeMahieu was not on the Yankees and they're starting leader, do the Yankees even make the playoffs?
No. The Yankees win 86 games if it's not for DJ LeMahieu.
Especially in the beginning of the season where he carried.
Well, who should have won MVP? Out of the 3. Because LeMahieu got
Bregman? Would you have taken Bregman?
I would be very happy with Bregman. I think a great season, a breakout year for him. And I thought ultimately...
I still can't believe DJ finished 4th. Not even 3rd.
Look at Trout's numbers.
Well, they were historically good. They were like Babe Ruth.
They're like, again...
I wish I had the thing.
He would have had 50 home runs this year.
He would have 50.
He would have, but he didn't.
Because he got injured.
Carlos Stanton would have had 50 if he played 145 games. Why are we playing this game? This fake us Mike Trout, we know what he would have done. Giancarlo, there's just only 9 years of track record. We just can't be sure. That's baloney. That's not. He didn't hit 50 because he doesn't stay healthy, because he plays reckless, and he's not clutch.
So here we go. So even though he missed the final 3 weeks of the season with a foot surgery, 22 games fewer than Bregman, He had 291 with 45 home runs, 104 RBIs, 110 runs scored. He
And he did it for like a bazillion dollars.
Now think about it. His numbers would have been better if he stayed healthy, but whatever. Joe said it is
Everyone's
what it is.
would have been.
Of course, but it wasn't. And he still had better numbers than Bregman. He also led the AL in OBS, slugging, OPS plus, and finished second in home runs. He also hit 297 with 489 on base and 670 slugging with runners in scoring position. So he almost hit 300 with scoring position.
Almost.
Runners. With 297, he hit.
LeMahieu hit 340.
Still pretty good.
340 is dude. 340 is like Rod Carew. 297 is like Miguel Andujar. Who's better? Come on, that's ridiculous. A Rod Carew reference. You're welcome.
And you're on a roll today.
I am.
You're on a roll today. You've been wanting to discuss.
I
this.
thought Bregman was going to win it because he played the whole season. His numbers were comparable to Trout.
Yes. It's lazy to give it to Mike Trout. It's lazy.
Well, here's the thing. Lazy is he could have won it the last 5 years in a row.
Right. Again, Mariano Rivera from 1998 until 2013 should have won every single Cy Young Award because he is the best. He was the best pitcher in baseball by a mile. There was not one person more consistent during that entire 17-year run than Mo. Mo should have won at least 8 or 9 of them.
See, and here's the problem we have, because I understand what Steve said. Trout is the best player in the game, hands down. We know that.
Yes.
Hands down, he's the best baseball player.
Stating the obvious.
Buster Olney even says it. He's like the reincarnation of Mickey Mantle. He's one of the best center fielders in baseball, catches everything, got a great arm, can run. If he needed to, he could steal 50 bases, hits over 300,
hits
if
for
he wants to,
power.
hits for power, does every single thing at an A+ level that you could want in baseball.
Around 300.
But here's the thing. But I also think guys now also take their batting and say, I'd rather bat 280 and have 45 home runs than 25 home runs and the 310 batting average, because home runs mean a lot more now than.
No, I'd rather have the 310. I'd rather be more complete. The 310 with 25 home runs.
We're stupid old school people.
Well, here's
that like guys that get on base.
But
I'll take the guy that gets on base. It's about getting on base.
But here's
we talked about.
okay,
hold on.
Hit the single,
or
hit a home run.
No, but
you can't take. You could take singles.
But Ted,
we
always discuss that.
Hit a home run. You can't take the score.
We always discuss that with the Yanks. That was always the biggest problem with the Yankees past couple of years.
No, it's they always hit home runs, but it's called situational hitting. When there is a guy on second and there's two,
and I want the guy that
Mike Trout's not a good situational hitter.
And I want the guy that's batting 310 and has 25 home runs.
What hurts him is his team is garbage.
Well, if they get called,
because I think like just like the Mets,
his team is not garbage, and that's not true.
But if Mike
the Anaheim Angels have a pretty decent roster, and the idea
their pitching is garbage though. They have
their pitching is what it is because of, and again, the idea that they've invested like $500 million into this guy when pitching is clearly still a real issue just speaks to the incompetence of.
But how could their team be that bad and the Minnesota Twins win 100 games?
Managing
right
all around, it's organization. Franchise.
I'm trying to think of like teams that you don't think, like Milwaukee Brewers. How are they a competitive team? If the Angels have a good enough roster, they should be winning games, right? What? I mean, it's like the Browns thing. If their roster is good, if you got players on a team that are good enough, why are they not winning games?
Just front,
right? And so, like, and it's unfortunate that he's going to play on a team that might not make the playoffs for another 5 years.
It starts at the top. That's the thing.
Some guys lead their teams to greatness, and some guys are great.
The problem is baseball. One guy can't make that much of a difference. He can't.
I don't think that's true.
You think one baseball player changes everything?
2008, CC Sabathia single-handedly carried the Brewers into the postseason.
But they had to hit, too. Other guys had to do things. I understand. You're right. 100% right. He was like 9-0 with a...
Again, you're acting like everybody on the Angels is a horrible hitter, like Cole Calhoun and Albert Pujols. There are some good players. I understand the pitching's not great.
That's what it comes down to. For them, there's great talent offensively. Yes. They got hitters. We know that. There is players on that team.
Upton, Pujols, Cole Calhoun, the shortstop Andrell Simmons is probably the best defensive shortstop in the game.
Their pitching and their bullpen is atrocious.
But why is that? Because 10 years ago, their pitching was pretty outstanding. They were bringing guys up left, right, and sideways from the minor league system. Where'd they go wrong?
Yeah. You know what?
Again, but this is what I'm saying. The Mets' crappy bullpen doesn't factor into the awards.
Oh, I know.
I think it does a little bit. The Angels' lousy pitching doesn't factor into the award. I texted you last night, Ted, and I said, 1987, Andre Dawson.
You texted him, but don't text me.
No, he messaged us, but you don't answer.
Yeah, I don't. You and I had an Instagram thing going on too. It was weird.
I sent you. I sent you baseball posts.
1987, Andre Dawson, 49 home runs, hit like 320, drove in 140 runs. Had a ridiculous year in a year where there wasn't any other real standout players in the National League that year. Like the Hawk was head and shoulders, and he played on a lousy Cubs team, and he got the MVP, and we were all like, all right, this time it's okay. Like I said last year, I was like, I reluctantly went along with this baloney about 10-win pitchers winning Cy Youngs because I thought he'll win 15 next year. Because here's the funny thing. 2 years ago, he won 16 or 15 games.
Yeah.
And he didn't even come close to getting a Cy Young that year.
I picked him to win the Cy Young this year.
So did I.
I don't understand why again, in a sport where the
ultimate goal is to win.
Ultimate goal is to get a W. Why we've devalued the idea that winning games,
because analytics has changed the game in every.
But then every time Verlander wins 20, he's the Cy Young.
Well, the problem
without a doubt, every time.
But here's the problem: his numbers were just as great, and the wins were the solidifying thing. DeGrom didn't have the wins, but his numbers are great. I understand.
What's great?
For pitchers,
here's what I want a pitcher. Can you give me 6 innings? Can you put me in an opportunity to win every game that you pitch? That's what I mean. Can you give me an opportunity? Even if it's 2-2 and you got me to the 7th inning, that's doing your job.
I like starters that win games.
Here's the thing. Starters to win games would have to pitch all 9 innings.
That's not true. It's not true. In the specialized world where you only have to pitch 6, it should be easier, not harder.
Joe goes 7 innings, gives up no runs. It's 2-9 lead. I come in the 9th and I blow with a 3-run home run. That's not your fault, Joe.
He's peanut gallery. He's got to go to the bathroom.
He's got to go.
How about this? I wanted to think of one interesting fact. Jacob deGrom last 2 years, total of 21 wins. Justin Verlander had 21 wins this year. Anyways,
joke. Congratulations, deGrom, on your participation award. Thanks for showing up again.
You probably got a bonus check.
Joseph, as always, thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are signing off. If you didn't get to check us out, you can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, and check us out on YouTube as well. We are Keys to the City. You can follow us at Instagram. Joseph, as always, thank you for joining us, big guy.
He walked off.
I'm walking out. That's all walk out. But thank you, everybody, calling and comments as well. We appreciate it, Chaz. Thank you for calling in. And Joe, as always, thank you. We are Keys to the City. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. We are out.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city. We unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.